Call to order the Park and Rec Committee meeting for October 12th. We'll do the roll call.
Sure. Committee Member Arnie?
Present.
Committee Member Loughlin?
Here.
Committee Member McKellar? Here. Committee Member Toft? Here. Committee Member Trottier? Here. Committee Member Williams? Good.
And now I'll do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll go to number 4, which is approval or amendment of the agenda.
I would make the motion with an amendment. I'd like to add something to the agenda. I would like to add some disc golf person here, Travis Moser, to speak to us on golf tournaments that he's participated in, so we kind of have a better idea what we're trying to permit and regulate, and, you know, some information on that. And maybe another disc golf person will come and he can add to that as well, and his thoughts for doing some fundraising to do some improvements that could be with donations, such as a place to hang their bags at the tees and at the holes, so stuff like that, just small things like that. But I think that we'd like to at least hear it, and I don't think we've had an adequate chance to hear how these things work. So it's fair to the question, and it's fair to us to have more information. So I don't know if you want it under new business or old business.
We would request it be added as 7B under new business, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, 7B.
Okay, then my motion would be for an item 7B, disc golf added to the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
You have to do a roll. You have to do a vote.
Oh,
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries. We still need, oh, sorry.
I had one other item.
You wanted to add an item 2?
I want to see if it's an item that needs to be added.
Okay, sure.
We had talked about having a meeting another time, on a Thursday at the same time, to make up for the workshop that we had to cancel last month because of spending the whole workshop on doing that form for the tournaments. So where would that go as far as, would that be like another item under new business?
You could add it if you wanted to have a formal discussion with a vote on it, which probably, yeah, I would recommend it go under 7C then.
Okay.
Yeah,
Got it then.
Need a motion for that?
yes.
So I'll make a motion that we add a meeting. We'll decide on a Thursday, so it's at the same time that we meet
Okay.
within the next 2 weeks or whatever, to,
Do we set a date? Is that what we should do now? Is that?
No, not right
We'll
now.
discuss after
You'll
we
talk
discuss.
about it and set a date in item
No
7C.
discussion.
This is
Okay.
just a motion to talk about it at
Okay.
that time.
I'll second discussing it.
And vote?
all in favor? Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Okay, very good. Okay, so that's 2 amendments to the agenda. Can we get an overall motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, the next on the agenda is open forum. If anyone would like to come forward.
Hello, Travis Moser, Cedar Street, Breezy Point. I was asked to inform the Parks Committee that the silencers that were requested for the baskets out on the course have been received. for the holes that are, I guess I should say, the baskets that are within proximity to homes. Those are going to be delivered to the Parks building tomorrow to Joe. So I just want to pass that along.
Thank you.
Thank you for the donation.
And number 6 is the approval of the minutes.
One more open
Oh,
forum.
I'm sorry.
Tracy Curtin, Green Scene Drive. I guess I don't really know where to go or what to say with everything. I know we've spoken at council some numerous times. I obviously live on the expansion of the disc golf course, and I'm not like going to stand here and say that we have trouble with every group that goes through the disc golf course, but we are certainly having a lot of disruptions and problems. The list is, we have had public urination. I was on the course yesterday and there were people drinking. I didn't get it called in to where the cops were able to get there in time. But it was like a White Claw and a beer and a koozie. Smoking, we reported smoking happening out on the course as well. And I think the bigger thing in all of this for our family at this point in time is the noise level that comes through. It is a ravine, so starting when people leave hole 4 and move to hole 5, at that point of the hill, we start hearing a lot of just the general noise from those people. And it's not hindered by any trees, and it's not hindered by any mounds of dirt. Like, I don't have a berm in my yard that protects from the ravine of the noise. And like I said, there are some, I wish I had no complaints, I wouldn't be here. Some groups go through really quiet and, I really don't hear them other than the noise of the basket, and they move on. And we obviously appreciate when, those people are out there doing their thing and enjoying nature. But we do have larger groups that come through where I'm essentially hearing everything in their conversation, and it includes a lot of foul language, which I just don't think is something I can ignore, because I do like to spend a lot of time outside with my family, and that involves 3 small kids. If I'm at a park amenity that the city provides us and behavior is going on, it's easy for me to say, oh, you know what? We can probably just go home. Home is a quiet place where I have control over what's going on in our surroundings. But at this point in time, that's really been taken away from us as an option, because I am home. So this weekend, I told my 2 older boys, who understand the language and the music that was being played on the little speaker, to just go inside and shut the doors and windows so that they didn't have to be subjected to it. That's on my property, on our home property. Anywhere on my property, I hear that if the group chooses to come through and behave like that. And I don't know that I need to be the one. I mean, I don't know what's my recourse in that action. Do I try to meet the group and ask them, like, hey, this is a residential neighborhood. We actually have a lot of residents with kids on this course. Can you just, turn off the music as you play disc golf? Do you need the music? Because I don't have that problem with any of my neighbors. Because we're in a community, I know my neighbors, we respect each other. Like I said, it's not all groups, but it is for every probably quiet group that goes through, there is a loud group that goes through, and it is at any point in time in the day. There isn't set hours where I'm like, okay, we can avoid being outside from 8 a.m. to noon because the disc golf course is open, and then we go out and we enjoy our yard like every other resident in the city gets to do. We don't have that luxury anymore. We're outside working on the weekends. Obviously, disc golf is being used on the weekends, and there's a lot of different variations of groups. Again, lots of language, lots of things that if I were at a public park or a public place, I would just say to myself, you know what, let's just go home, because, we can hang out and be, I can control that environment, and we're just not able to do that as a family anymore. And that's just a concern that I feel like should be important to our committee and our council. As we are residents and we want to participate and be a positive impact in our community. And it genuinely feels like we haven't been asked, how is it going, by anybody. I mean, I have a handful. A couple of committee members and a couple of council members have reached out and said, hey, How's it going? Can we fix anything? Is there any changes that need to be made? Is it going well? What's going wrong? I just feel like as stakeholders in our community and as taxpayers in our community, that would be something I would expect people to be reaching out and asking us, because we're probably the most impacted living on the expansion and dealing with it day in and day out. Because like I said, there isn't set hours. It's anytime there's daylight. So I don't get to say, ooh, by 2 o'clock this afternoon, it's going to be quiet and my kids can go outside and play and I don't have to worry.
We did discuss having a quarterly meeting once it opened to see how it was going and get feedback. Maybe we need to compress that to monthly. But we did have that discussion about doing that, and it just opened, as far as I saw, on the Facebook page like last week.
Yep.
So,
But prior to that, it had been used.
but it wasn't officially open, so we,
Yep. Yeah, we would appreciate that.
I was just going to add, I sent everybody on this panel, and I think Mr. Ike and Mr. Maroney, a copy of what the Curtins had recorded Sunday afternoon. And
I did not get that. When did you
I sent it this afternoon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's-
Well, then
yeah,
I didn't look at it yet.
And I can verify, I'm outside Sunday afternoon myself on my deck, and I hear somebody yelling, "What the Effenheimer?" And that's something I'm not used to hearing coming in our residential neighborhood. And that happens quite a bit. These kids don't realize that the sound, we're in a ravine just like the Curtins are. I hear everything. It's the lake effect. I hear everything. We've just started not going outside in the weekends unless we have to. And that's unfortunately what's been done to us residents that live there. So you could let me know anytime you hear noise, and I'll run down there and tell them to be quiet if you want me to.
I mean, I think it's just a problem for me because I don't know what our solution is as far as that goes, because I don't feel like that's my place and I don't want to cause a conflict that's unnecessary or makes either side unsafe. I
Yeah,
don't
you
know what
shouldn't
to
have to
expect.
be
I
out
have
there.
been trying to report the behavior that has been asked not to happen on the course with the police. Again, I actually hate using that resource because it feels a little bit like I'm wasting our resource in our community, and I don't like to
Can
do
I ask
that.
a question? You called because there was alcohol. You knew that there was, what happened?
The people had gotten to the parking lot before the officer was on another call, so he wasn't able to
Okay.
meet that couple that was using alcohol.
And smoking as well? Did you-
The smoking individual, at that point in time, I just mentioned to the officer, I was like, I'm calling to let you know what's happening. I don't know at this point in time if it's marijuana or a cigarette. I'm assuming it was a cigarette, but I can't really tell. But again, I just told him, like, the reality is, like, if people probably do that on the courses, when they're an adult, but there was a sign there that says no smoking and drinking. So
There
it's
is
just
one
me.
that
Yep.
got up? Okay.
On
I didn't-
both entrances.
Okay, good.
Both courses.
wasn't
So
sure.
for me, it's an adult who can read a sign and knows what's expected of them on the course, and they just can, they chose not to abide by that. So again, I felt really silly calling about it. I really do. I don't like it. I felt silly. It feels like a waste of resource, and I just let them know, listen, you can just make a report. I don't expect you to come out here and do anything if you're busy and you have other important things to do. It's just, I was told that we're supposed to report it. So that's what my goal was
Yep.
to make the report.
I think if we have rules, there has to be an enforcement of them somehow, so unless people are told,
Yeah,
there's no point in having them.
yeah. So yeah, that's, I guess I just want to share that. Speaking about the tournaments, I know that I think there's usually 2 tournaments a year previously on the original course. I honestly would say right now at this point in time for our family to have 1 tournament on a weekend in every month, that it is nice. I feel like it would really negatively impact us. When we have nice weather, it is really nice to enjoy your home because you don't have a lot of time. We also, want to work in our yard. To have over 50 people continuously moving through.
We voted on that, 1 per month of them, that they're open. So there won't be 2.
Well,
No,
I would
I'm
disagree
saying
on that
one-
because they're playing a semantic game. If it's not, they'll call it an event, an outing, or a celebration, and say, well, it's not a tournament, because that's what happened on the middle of September, which I got.
That happened last weekend as well?
Right, right. But, again, it's part of their league, so I guess you know,
League-
it didn't fall under that classification of a tournament.
So usually, well, and this was mostly on the original course, and I don't know if they would maintain it on the original course. You can ask club members, but it seems like every Sunday they're out there. So every Sunday, there are groups of people going through that isn't qualified under the tournament rule. So every Sunday is, you know, already something that's happening on the course. So that's every Sunday. And then I'm actually trying to say that one tournament per month would negatively affect the residents on that course right now, as it stands. I can say like 2. I can understand that. I can plan a getaway for that day, for that weekend when that Saturday comes around. But every nice month we have, right? It's limited days. And so if you're telling me one weekend every month for sure you're going to be impacted here, you know, I'm not going to go outside of my home. I'm going to leave. So you're asking me, hey, take leave, head out. I just think that as a stakeholder in all of this as well, like we are impacted, and I really would appreciate being heard and respected and having some kind of balance in that. I'm not saying no tournaments. I'm saying, can we come to some sort of balance there?
Okay. Diane?
I would like to save the discussion on tournaments until we hear from a person who's actually participated in them. And then as far as hearing sound on your property, I'm not an advocate of public swearing either. But I will tell you that people have things in their neighborhood that they deal with, that they hear. Some places get a lot of the gravel trucks going by. I'm on a lake. I hear boats all day. Sometimes they're rafted up out there and they play music that's not my taste. They play it all day. Sometimes they're out there swearing. Mm-hmm. I can't do anything about those things, so I think it's somewhat unreasonable to expect that we provide you pure silence with only bird song.
I didn't ask for pure silence. I'm asking for the fact that our committee and council voted this into a green space in the city, knowing that there are homes there so that the design could have been thoughtful going forward so that we wouldn't have to be here and impacted. I mean, I don't think, to be honest, I don't think that you would have voted this into your grandkids' backyard, knowing the noise that comes through. And it's not just noise. I'm hearing their entire conversations. I'm hearing about how they were the second smallest kid in their graduating class and how everybody chuckles about it. I'm hearing full conversations. It's not mumbles and this and that. It is clearly articulated F words, SOB, the works. Not just faint, like it is crystal clear what comes to our house and echoes off of our house. On top of that, I can record it from sitting inside my house and hear it. I was sitting inside my house when the man publicly urinated behind our house, feeding my 1-year-old daughter a snack, and saw him urinating outside of my house. And I'm saying, I understand that other people have issues, but if it's my community, if it's my neighbor, I'm able to actively have a discussion and say, hey, is there, like, if you're playing loud music, can we come together as neighbors and work on this? Because it's part of my community and I can have those relationships, but I don't know all the individuals coming through and playing disc golf. Like I said, we're not having issues with every group that comes through. I'm not trying to say that at all, but what I'm saying is, there have been a significant amount, and like Committee Member Arnie said, it has only been a week since it has technically been open. So my concern is, how does this escalate or continue as it is more known?
What solution do you offer?
I offer whole removals from the homes because I think 27 holes of disc golf is also a good amount for the city. The eastern side has most of the homes, where the western side of the course has significantly less homes. And I still hear mumbling and noise when people are looping through on the western side, but I do not hear clear conversations and swearing. I just would say that the buffer that is also on the original course, should be allowed to us on the expansion as well. The original course has larger buffers to prevent sounds, even seeing. Seeing them is a big concern too. My kids, there has been discs lost towards our home, and my son runs every time someone starts traipsing in through the trees to let me know someone's coming in, because it's a little disconcerting because it's a stranger. So I would appreciate that he wants to come find me and let me know someone's coming in. But I also think it's kind of unfair that this amenity is affecting homes and properties and our children in such a negative way. I don't let them play outside by themselves right now, because it is disconcerting. It upsets him to see strangers coming towards our property, unsure of how far are they coming in. It would be a much different story if there was more room between the property lines and the disc golf players.
I'm just going to add to what Councilwoman Williams said. I owned a lake home for 15 years, and when I bought the property, I knew I was going to have boats out there. I knew I was going to have noise. It just goes because I knew what I was buying. When we bought our property up here, there was nothing there. We were told there would be nothing. So it's a little more of a shock for us to have to put up with something that we did not know we would have to put up with.
Yep.
So I know where you're coming from.
And I just say again that the original course, if you look at a top-down photo, there is a lot more buffer. And I have gone and knocked on the doors of those who lived on the original course when I found out that it was coming as an expansion to our course, just to get an idea of how is it going for them. Maybe it's totally fine. And that was not what I heard from them. I can't say that they feel as impacted because their lands they have a backyard and they have a berm of land, and then it drops down into the ravine. So they do not see the disc golfers, and their voices cannot carry in the same way because there is a berm of land and obviously then a lot of trees as well. So that prevents them from hearing the clear conversations and activities. However, they do report that they often smell smoke of some or other kind. So, knowing that that's happening, but, it's not a concern that they're up for reporting. So,
Anything else?
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. So I guess we're on to, oh, I'm sorry.
He
Oh,
raised his
I'm
hand.
sorry.
Travis Moser again, Cedar Street. Just taking all this in as a resident and a disc golfer, obviously I'm in favor of the course. Publicly on record, I've yet to get to communicate with Tracy. I know who she is. I would like to offer an invitation to you this evening after the meeting or whenever, to meet to discuss the concerns you have as far as, what your solutions are, how that would look, et cetera. I would like to hear them. I would like to solve the problem, because personally, as a resident of the city, I'm sick of this conversation probably as much as anybody, because every time I play anywhere, I have to deal with it, and it's kind of getting old. But I do want to point out a few things. We'll get to some of them later in more detail. As far as tournaments go, I've already presented to a couple council members of this city that instead of doing 5 per summer, I think the limit should be 3. I don't see us needing to have 5. I think 3 is more than sufficient, so I think that will address part of her concerns as well. I don't think we need to have 1 out there every month. Tournament play, Tracy, for your information, is significantly quieter than anything you would see at any public time, barring the absolute most quiet people that would go out there on any given day. And when I'm out there by myself, there's hardly any noise because I'm just playing and I'm, whatever. When I play, I'm the guy that runs league at Breezy, so if you guys have questions about that, come to me. I'm the one that runs it and operates it. I don't exactly condone anybody's behavior as far as language, activities. However, I'm also not the police, so it's not my job or my responsibility to tell people what they can or can't do. I also know that it's a public park. People are allowed to use it, in a fair, efficient fashion. Try to be respectful of people, but it is a public space. Mr. Toft, to your comment about knowing and not knowing, you moved on a lake, you knew what you're getting into. as a rational thinking person, I find it silly to think that you would buy land on, that it abuts public land with any assumption that it would never be developed for some use. Regardless of what it is, somebody's going to do something.
I
with
did
it.
ask, I didn't assume, and the realtor said, no, it's going to be, always going to stay green
Correct.
forever, as all of the people on that side did the same.
Agreed, I agree with you. Is the realtor on the city council, and do they make public policy for the city of Breezy Point? Yes or no?
What do you think?
No. So you can't take the word of your realtor. If you want to know what's happening to the public land that you're going to buy next to, probably
I
talk
think
to
we
your
should
city.
stick to the,
Yeah. The issue of discs being lost towards or thrown, I wouldn't say lost, because I'm not aware of any being lost there, lost towards the homes. I do want to point out, since we've talked about compromise as well, I did work with the city as far as redesigning hole 5. So the original hole 5, which abuts up to the Curtins property, used to be literally right along their property line. I didn't think it was sufficient where it was, so I met with the city outside of hours on my own time and laid out what I thought was a new place that it should go to keep the flow of play good, but to create an additional, it was something like 110 to 120 foot buffer from where it is now to where it used to be. And the hole that used to be there was something like 100 feet from their property line, if not more, where the basket was. So currently, if any disc is thrown towards that house, you're talking at least 250 feet between the basket and their home, most of which would be city land. So I don't think it's reasonable to point out as a necessary criticism that somebody's going to find their personal property that they're playing with in public space, that they're still on public land. They're not encroaching on anybody else's property. In fact, they can't realistically even get to the original hole 5, which is significantly closer to their home than the active hole 5. If you're on hole 6, you're throwing completely in the other direction. You can't throw to their property unless their property line is up on way in the right somewhere, which I don't believe it is. But so I just want to make sure that's clear. I don't necessarily condone people going on someone else's property and that happening, but the distances we're talking here aren't 5 feet. They're nearly a football field in length from where we're playing to where a house is. That's a significant space. I'm an above average disc golfer. I couldn't throw to their property if you gave me all day to do it. I couldn't get a disc to their property line off the tee. Just so we're understanding the scope of what we're talking about here. So again, Tracy, I would love to meet with you. I have a lot of interest in what you have to say, what your opinions are, what your thoughts are, and I would like to definitely have that discussion with you, and we can meet afterwards.
Thanks, appreciate that. Can I make one? I'm sorry, Tracy, Greenstein Drive. I'm not saying that the disc comes directly at my house. Hole 6 actually abuts, so hole 5 comes down and they tee off in the corner, but then it heads, well, I don't know if that's 5 or 6. Tee box 6 actually goes the entire vertical direction with my property line. So if you look down, our entire western property line abuts hole 6. I'm not saying it comes all the way to our property line, but when they throw discs, it comes into the tree line where there is public space and there is our private property together. And that is where the individuals enter to look for their lost discs. So I'm not saying it comes into my grassy yard. I'm saying that there are individuals coming into that tree line where our property is and the public property. And it does happen frequently enough because they're throwing north and our property line is that entire stretch. So the individuals do come into the tree line.
so they do encroach on your property.
I wouldn't say, I can't confirm. I know
Okay.
that they're walking towards, if I put up a string, I can say how close they're getting to our property line. I don't have that up at the moment, but individuals are walking into the tree line to search for discs. I can't confirm that they would be into our property line, but it's just a bunch of trees there where my kids would play, right? So if my kids are over there, that is where Judah sees the individuals coming into the tree line, which looks as if they're walking in towards our home. So that is why he has his concerns.
Okay, thank you.
Administrator Chansky, would we have like an overview map that we could look at? Because sometimes it's hard to see what they're talking about. I apologize for that. If we would have something that we could look at.
Not something I think we can pull up in the next 10 seconds unless Daniel, you...
I know it exists. I'm not sure where it is in the drive, though.
Yeah, not...
Okay.
But we can definitely send you something.
Yeah, that'd be
But
great.
You have it
we
in
don't
front
have
of
it for this moment.
That would be nice, and is there any way to look?
We can, I mean, I can try to pull this up right here.
That's nice. Nothing there or there.
That's beautiful.
Oh, there it goes. Sorry about that. That just took a second.
There we go, okay.
1, 2, 3, 4. We're talking about hole 5.
This is taken before the trees have all been taken out, so it's hard to get a perspective on it.
Isn't the best according to Crow Wing County's site. So this is Crow Wing County's site. This would be, if you kind of picture the road here, I believe this is the Curtin's residence.
It's up a little bit, it's up, it was up,
Don't touch it. Is it the larger parcel?
yes, it's up,
Okay. So this is, man, I got Sunny Lane, so if we come back to here, I think, yep, Sunny Lane, so here's where that larger parcel was. So this is that 6. I believe, if you follow my hand, I believe, and Tracy or Travis could probably comment, the hole was designed like
Yeah,
this,
that's what I was wondering too,
very
okay.
intrusive into the home.
So that was the old way.
Lot before the home was built, very intrusive to their visual. And so that's where it was adjusted up to the west, sorry, here. And then this is the 6th little T-pad.
Is that where it's moved to, Mike, or is that?
Yeah, that's the new.
The new, yes.
Correct.
The old,
If I could make sure everyone's using their microphones, that would be great. Thanks.
Yes.
Oh. So these are where it's placed now after the
Yes. Yes.
modification?
Yes. Travis could commit more on the UDisc is pretty accurate with locations.
So, all right. UDisc shows that, this is a slight problem. UDisc is showing your T-pad, shows your basket, and the general concept of direction of the hole, but it doesn't lay out property lines or any such, thing. It doesn't tell you how close you are to anything. It just gives you an idea when you're playing. It shows me where I am in space with a GPS dot, and then it shows me a square box that's been laid out as a T-pad, and as I move around, the dot moves, and I know I'm standing on the T-pad. Obviously, there's a concrete pad in the ground, but some courses I've played don't have them, and you don't know where you are. So that's what this would look like here. So I would know, where are we at here? So there's 5, that's, must be 6, yeah, that's 6 going up. So like, yeah, if I was standing on the T-pad at 6 there, I would just know I'm on 6, and then it shows me I'm going forward. Oh, look, there's the basket. Our T-pads have the distances on them. I want to say hole 6 is like 396 feet. So when I look up and I can see there's a basket, yeah, it's roughly 400 feet away, that's my basket. So I know I'm going that way. And then as a player, it's open, there's woods, so obviously I don't want to throw here, I don't want to throw there. Not all throw goes perfect, but yeah, you're not going to throw this way, you're not going to throw that way. If, in all honesty, if you do throw this way or that way, you're not throwing very far because you're a very new player, so it's kind of a give or take. The good players can throw a long way, but they're very accurate. New players could kind of go anywhere, but they don't throw very far. And when I say not very far, like, if any of you came out having never played the game, if you threw a disc 70 feet, I'd be impressed. I played today on a wide open course. Best throw I had was 390 feet. But I was dead accurate between me and the basket. So, there are, as Tracy said, there are discs that will go to the right of 6 because it is a fairly tight fairway given there's some trees in the middle you got to kind of throw around. Obviously, you don't want to hit them. And there are some discs that people will throw and they'll end up going a little too straight. They might hit a tree and go a little bit right. They usually ricochet out in the fairway, thankfully. But that's a reasonable, that's definitely a representation of what it looks like. But as far as the spacing, that doesn't take that into account because it's not covered. It's just a generic line.
Now that it's complete, is there any way that we can get an overhead accurate picture of what we're looking at?
You could try going to
Getting-
Google Earth and
Google-
see if there's been an updated picture. They update their pictures every so often, so you could try that.
See, like I know a guy who works with maps, right? We could potentially overlay it's interesting that Crow Wing County has a different visual. Again, Crow Wing County contracts out. However, whenever they do it, this was before the Curtin's home, which was developed in 2022, I believe. So this was pre-2022. Again, as Mr. Tofton indicated, it's before logging of both maps are before logging. Actually, I think this might actually be post-logging if these are the trees that were downed. But again, it doesn't have the layout involved with it. Is there a way that UDisc, I don't know if UDisc can incorporate what Crow Wing County has, I don't know. But you're asking the right question. I don't know.
You think you could drone that?
Wouldn't give us property lines, but at least
No,
it'd
you could see at least where the,
move over it.
yeah.
Right.
I do know a good surveyor. So yes, we could get one. We may have to pay for it, but we could get one.
Okay, that might be helpful in this situation.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman.
I think so.
So is there anything else? Anyone wants to stay on the disc golf course? Then we'll move on to, what was it, you wanted to add the meeting?
Well, we did that.
Item
under-
6A is
Under
next.
7C.
Oh,
We put it under 7C.
We're on item 6.
You're on item 6A.
Yes, we're on item
Yeah,
6A.
we're up on 6, so,
oh,
yeah. We haven't gotten that far yet.
oh my gosh, okay. So are we on now to 7?
6.
No, you have to.
I got it,
We have
ma'am.
to
So
approve
we're
the
on to item
minutes.
6A, which is
Oh, okay.
approval of minutes from the last meeting.
Okay.
This would be your approval of the minutes from the September 14th, 2023 regular Parks and Recreation Committee
Yep.
meeting minutes.
Motion,
Yeah, do you want to make a motion to approve?
sure.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries.
Number 7, new
Yes.
business.
Now we are on to 7A, which is discussion on transition from advisory committee to authoritative committee. I will toss that over to Administrator Jansky.
Thank you, Mr. Reck. Okay. So on the October 2nd City Council meeting, which was a week ago Monday, the City Council discussed the organization of the Parks and Recreation Committee and considered resolution to expand the committee from 7 to 9 members. This was an item that was requested by Mayor Zierden. The discussion ended up kind of divulging into 2 parts. It started with talking about obviously the membership, the size of the committee, but then ultimately also moved into kind of, I think, the bigger discussion of whether the Parks and Recreation Committee should be an advisory committee or I'm just referring to as an authoritative decision-making committee. After I think some lengthy discussion, the City Council directed that they wanted to have the Parks and Recreation Committee discuss the topic prior to taking any formal action. So that's what we're kind of here to do tonight. Again, there's really 2 questions before the committee. The first is, I would say the first of the more significant of the 2 is, should the committee move from being an advisory committee to being a more authoritative committee? And then the second would be, should the makeup of the committee be altered? I will say, and I'll go into a little bit more detail here, a yes to either question does require a change to the ordinance. So section 33.35, we discussed this way back in April. This is just a little bit of a synopsis. We had a bigger discussion back in April. I walked the committee through kind of the roles and responsibilities of the Parks and Recreation Committee. So section 33.35, that regulates the Parks and Recreation Committee. And identifies that the purpose of the committee is to review and to make recommendations to the council on the development and organization of the city's parks, trails, and recreation programs. The general duty of the committee is prepare, hold hearings on, and recommend the city council the plans, programs, and policies it deems necessary to carry out the purposes of this section. So it is a recommending committee. That section even does state that the committee shall be no less than 5 and no more than 7. So when this item was originally asked to be on the agenda, didn't have a lot of time to turn it around. State statute does allow them to be up to 9, but our ordinance only restricts it to 7. So if we were ever to go any bigger than 7, the ordinance would, section 33.35 would have to be amended. Per statute, sections 412 governs park boards, park committees. 412.511 and 412.521 establish the powers a park committee may have. And in short, the statute permits parks to be an authoritative subdivision of the city council that established them, up into essentially managing personnel, having fiduciary responsibility, even being able to look at things like sign leases and stuff with the council's approval, but be able to pursue land transactions and stuff. That's kind of the max they can have, and cities can decide anything less than that, any combination thereof. So while the statute allows that, the city code does specifically state that the Parks and Recreation Committee shall not be considered a park committee under state law and shall have no powers to acquire or lease land, employ personnel, or enter into contract or leases or any similar powers authorized for a park committee by state law. So while the state statute says they can have that authority, the city ordinance is very clear that this committee does not, and this committee is purely an advisory committee. So that comes back to, again, kind of the two questions is, should this committee be moved to an authoritative committee? And then on second, should the membership of the committee from how many seats are on the committee be altered? So those are the two questions the council has sent this committee to discuss. I guess with that, I'll hand it over to
Yeah, I have
the
a
committee.
question, David.
Yeah.
We would be advising the council on either one. It's not our decision, right?
Correct. I think they're looking for your input.
Okay.
So if it made a switch to a board, or just a governing board rather than an advisory committee, is it still a volunteer position?
So that's up to the council. Every city does it a little differently. Most cities, even like I used the example of the city of Brainerd, they are a charter city, but they still fall under state statute. They have an authoritative park board. That park board there, they actually, up until about a year ago when they changed the charter, they even had hire and fire authority over most of their staff. But they took that away, but they still retain pretty much fiduciary authority. So they produce a budget every year, go to the council approves the budget. Once the council approves the budget, they're in charge of everything parks related. They approve their own bills. Granted, the Brainerd Parks Department has a budget over $1 million a year. And they have an actual full-time parks staff. So you have everything from that, but the committee members, to your question, Committee Member Trotter, they are all volunteers. How their charter reads, nominated by, I think it's the council president, approved by the council. So very similar to how you all are appointed. You apply, the mayor recommends, council approves. Yes.
Excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Yeah, so that's how it is.
Okay.
Other cities elsewhere, I know in like the city of Minneapolis, I would call them, they are the outlier. Their park commission is elected. In this case, I think Minneapolis is really the outlier. When I read state statute, it generally talks about appointed. So I'd never use Minneapolis as a good example for anything.
Okay, so if the council wants to go to us to have 9 on the committee, they have to change the city ordinance to do it.
Correct.
Which, I mean, for me personally, doesn't matter to me how many we have on this committee, but for us to go to this board, I mean, You guys will never vote to give us any kind of power to hire and fire and make leases and that type of thing. So to me, that's a moot point. We're not going to switch to a board. The council and you wouldn't let it happen.
Well, I have no choice in this. If the council wants to make you a board, they get to make you a board. I have no.
But they're not,
Well, for one, we don't have any staff.
Right.
Right, well, I mean, did you read the statute, the second one, the 521 one? It's, we can fire people. I mean, we're totally in charge of what we're in charge of, so we make sure that's taken care of. I mean, and, they're just not going to, we're volunteer, we're just not going to have the manpower of us, because a lot of us, I'm still working, I think most of us here are still working, we're not going to have the opportunity to do that. So I think if we get, my recommendation would be the council to just change the ordinance and go to 9 if that's what they want.
Yeah. And to your point, I was going to point out, and actually, I said the Brainerd Park Committee Park Board had that hire and fire authority. It actually, the change in the charter to remove that authority actually came from the board. Because they said the very same thing. We're volunteers. We don't want that.
So, if I could, I did some research when this came up about area communities and the numbers on their boards. And what I found out was, what I did find for 9 was park boards was Minneapolis and St. Paul. So just considering the size of the population of those cities compared to Breezy Point. In our area, Cross Lake has a committee of 7. It's a committee, not a board, with 1 youth member vacancy right now that they have not been able to fill. So of the 7, they only have 6 positions filled. Nisswa has 6 members with 1 vacancy listed on their website currently. Pine River is currently looking for volunteers, and Crosby does not have an active parks committee. With all the work that's going on in Crosby, that kind of blew me away. And this was off their websites. I did not call to contact to ask that, but I went off their current website. The Brainerd Park and Recreation Board has 5 members, plus the mayor serves as a council liaison. And in my comment with that was our board at 7 is already larger than all of those cities except for Minneapolis and St. Paul, of the ones that I looked up. And I just feel like for a community our size, that it being an advisory committee is important. I think it's really important. The open forum is a good addition, and I think, as has been brought up, being receptive to listening to the input our community members are giving us is really important. But then working together with 7 people, 9 seems like a really, really large group to me, and for a community our size. And I have no interest in being a governing board member as a volunteer. I appreciate the opportunity to give suggestions to the board.
Can we take up the issue then after this pieces of information that you gave about the number? Can we have a vote on to keep it at 7 and then have discussion? I move that we keep the board at 7.
I'll second.
And
So, so now you have a motion on the table from
And a second.
Committee Member Arnie, second by Committee Member Williams.
May I ask you, Gail, you want
limit
to
it to
keep it
7,
at
so they-
7
Keep it
or
at 7.
maximum of 7?
Keep same.
that's the same thing, isn't it?
Don't
Stay
change.
with 7. 7 members.
I will add to that in the past, at times, even when the board was 5, sometimes it was hard to find 5 volunteers. I mean, historically.
Right.
So that we have 7 is impressive, quite honestly.
I'm open about how many members can be on this committee, so I'm not for that, just limiting it to 7. I just think that as we grow as a community, there's more people that want to be involved, and we're making decisions and recommendations that affect a lot of people, more so than it was 10 years ago. So if people want to have a voice and they want to be on it, I don't want to be the one that says, no, you can't.
So people can have a voice, like she said, at the open forums, but I think we went from 5 to 7. I feel like we are just starting to understand how to work together, and I think it's a good number. If we're missing a couple people, we can still have a good number left to carry on with business. And then the open forum helps us to listen to whoever needs to be listened to. And we've given everybody as much time as they've needed. So that was my thoughts. 9, you just get to where we will be it'll be too much to get anything done.
I
It gets
also
too
think
big. And if Minneapolis isn't even that big, we certainly don't need to be that big.
I think that having a board that represents different segments of the population of our community is important too, which I think we do. We have a lot of, age range, kids, no kids, grandkids, interest range, which is important because we have certain areas that we have more strengths or expertise or knowledge about. But one person doesn't need to know everything. And I think that as moving forward, as people's appointment runs out, then looking to fill, like, we could use a younger member with younger children, or then that would be a priority more than, to me, in my opinion, than just adding more numbers.
Are you suggesting term limits?
Well, there is.
We have term limits.
So to clarify, there is a duration of a term, but there's no limit on how many
limit.
times you may be
Right.
Can
reappointed.
right,
That's
yeah.
what I meant.
And
I mean,
that's-
say
that's
2
what I
terms and
meant.
you're out or whatever. I mean,
No,
that's not what you're saying. Okay.
what I'm saying is if I step down or at the end of my time, then when that vacancy is there, that, keeping in mind that maybe this is where we could use to fill this representation.
And if I can clarify too,
Yep.
anytime a term expires, that incumbent has to reapply and then be reappointed. So there, that person applies and 4 other people apply, and the council chooses to appoint someone else, that's their discretion.
And to me,
So
it
it's
seems
not,
like
it's
the
not an
mayor,
automatic reappointment
Right.
just because you want to keep serving.
the mayor and the head of the committee should meet to to go through, I think, the balance, like you were saying. But that's still up to the mayor to decide.
Is it, when people apply, is it automatically looked at as first applied, first gets appointed? Or are anybody applying considered?
So what we do is, if anyone applies, so we kind of keep all applications available. So, sometimes we have more applications than seats available. So we have 1 seat and 4 applications, and obviously 1 person gets applied. We keep the other 3 around. So next time there's another opening, we have them, we can reach out, hey, are you still interested? And then all applications, normal procedure is you kind of would have a window of, hey, there's an opening, if people want to apply by this date. And then we would give all the applications, go to the mayor reviews, and then, the mayor.
Interviews.
Excuse me. The mayor can do whatever process he or she chooses to do, and then makes a recommendation to the council. The council then decides, a majority of the council then decides whether or not to appoint that person. So, we don't throw the applications away just because that person didn't get appointed. We do keep them around just in case, because you never know when a vacancy might open up if someone feels like they need to step down or whatever.
But it's not just that someone who applied in 2021 would be favored over someone who applied.
No,
say,
it's not a first come,
next
first
fall
serve.
for a vacancy.
No.
Okay?
Do we need to vote on your motion?
We need a-
Yes. Yeah. So at some point we will, if there's any.
Any more discussion? I guess.
Is there any more discussion? No. So vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Opposed?
I'll be the opposed, nay.
Opposed, yeah. I'm sorry, I was thinking what I wanted to do there.
Okay, so we will pass along, so that's, I believe, was that 5-1? So we will pass along to the council that decision, or that recommendation to stay at 7. So I guess now it goes to the other question of the authoritative piece, stay as is, or would the committee recommend that the council pursue
I
further?
will make a motion that we remain as listed in,
recommending committee?
that we stay as a committee, not
second.
a governing board.
I'd like to say something about it first. I think there's so much lost in translation here. We don't have any authority over anything. And so I think the disc golf course was a really good example of that, where the city council didn't really hear everything that was said, like at the meeting we had. I heard that directly from the mayor. There was a lot of things lost in translation, and when we don't have any power, all we're doing is going back and forth and back and forth. And I'm kind of in favor of a board, personally, because, we could do some really good things if we had some power and take things off. It still comes down to the city council. They're still.
No,
We have
Not
no
if we're
budget
bored.
and everything.
Not if you're.
No,
Well,
not if
they
we're
would give us a
board.
budget, correct?
It
We would-
depends on how far they choose to go. But if they choose to, give you fiduciary authority over your budget, then you would have direction. If they approve a budget and that budget includes, say, $50,000 for capital, you get to decide how you spend that $50,000.
At that point, would we be required to have a treasurer in charge of those funds and writing the checks?
The statute
or
talks
how
about
does
that, but
how does that
essentially
work?
that's
We're getting way too
staff.
far
Staff just becomes that
from what
role.
we need to do.
Generally, that's how it works. The statute does talk about having a treasurer and all that, but most places, how most cities in their ordinance talk about that is that the treasurer is the finance director or the city administrator or the city clerk. So it's not one of the appointed committee members has to be the treasurer.
So we simply know how much our budget is and tell somebody on the committee to write the checks.
But we all have to agree.
Well, of course, we
Yeah.
vote on it, we say, yeah, we want to spend this money. Then we send it to another place who writes the checks.
No,
So if
it
there
would be
was
city.
ever
You're still you're an
audit-
entity of the city.
So if there was ever an audit, that's what I'm.
You're
trying
out,
to
the parks is just part of the city. So you're still a subdivision of the city. You're not a separate legal entity. The council is just giving you the authority to control that section of the city's budget.
get. That word is. kinda
Also,
scary.
I've learned that there's a frustration that, we're capable people. I watched the meeting. Did anyone watch the council meeting? Okay, so they don't want us to have full control over everything either. They want to, and we don't want it, but they want to give us more ability to not just dream and throw junk at them. They want us to be able to research, come up with real recommendations, and not just throw something at them and then let them figure it out and then change the number. Like we were kind of floundering around with a couple of those numbers on the
Applicant,
form we were
yeah.
making up. Like just the garden. I mean, we've been talking about the garden. I keep hearing, well, we hear nothing from the council about a garden, so we're not moving on a garden. And they're like, yes, you should be able to talk about it and do things, and we did, and now it's sitting. So things we want to be able to move forward with or talk about even, we should be able to talk about and move it to them for their ideas. That's what she wants. That's what I'm getting, the feeling I'm getting from the mayor and what I heard from the other council members the other night when I watched them have this discussion.
Well, I think it's, there is no real vision for Park and Rec in Breezy Point. And that if there was a board where we had some, we're not waiting for the city to direct us for every little thing that we do, would be a positive thing for the city, the residents. Yeah.
I agree with Deanne. I'm very happy being a recommending committee. I would not want to be spending taxpayer dollars as an appointed person. I think people who spend money should be accountable to the taxpayers and the voters. So I have that huge problem. I was at the meeting, and what I understood from the meeting is that they wanted to allow us, it started out allowing us a little more leeway. For example, if we discovered we wanted 10 garbage cans or 10 benches, which exceeds, I think, the amount that that can be spent now. They wanted to give us that. I didn't get that they wanted us to just go rogue. And that's what I would fear.
No, I don't think so.
I seriously would worry about that.
I think we
No, all
could,
financials would still have to be approved
Right.
by them.
Not if, as he says, we decide to, we get $50,000, we spend it how we want it. We could buy bicycles and set them all over on every corner. You know, what would stop us?
Well, being reasonable and
Reasonable to who?
to the residents, that's why we're up
How
here.
how do we know if, they didn't vote for us?
I mean, we trust the city council to do that. I mean, I think
They're
up here, we're
accountable.
responsible
They are
adults.
accountable to the voters.
Can we make a statute, or how would we make a rule that all the financials will still go to the board, to the council
Then
for
that's staying
approval?
a
then that's
committee.
staying a committee.
Okay. Well, they want some more than just dreams from us. They want some more concrete work from us, and they
Well,
feel that we're very capable of it, and I thought that was very nice, and that we are not sitting here spinning our wheels on things. So there's got to be a compromise between being a full board, and can they just give us some different powers that aren't a full board?
Well, I
Is
think
that possible?
part of it is the council has never, I think part of, they want more than just dreams from you or whatever, hearing from you is, but they haven't actually said what they want from you. And so part of it, I think, is maybe some of this frustration is I do agree, there's no direction. And so, without the council's specific direction, you only can just make recommendations on things that you all see. And then they get to decide whether or not they agree with that recommendation and should pursue that thing.
Well, and to add to that, I think if we open up the communication a little more, like when Megan presented the other day, this is where we are, this is what we've been doing. I think that's opening up that a little bit more so that it shouldn't be a surprise if all of a sudden we say, we're really interested in this community garden. We've heard a lot of interest. Here's our budget of what we think it would cost. This is how we would like to spend this money. We can do all that. The communication piece needs to be there. Being a board doesn't give us that communication piece. Us reaching out and being the communicators makes us able to make that communication.
And to also be clear, this is where the master plan you're working on, and then after that, the capital improvement plan
Yes.
actually really comes into play and why they're so important, because that is once that is done, as we talked about back in May, June was when we started talking about this, was those are, you complete it, you vote, we like this is what we want. You send it to the city council for their adoption. And that's you saying, this is the vision we see for the city for the next 5, 10, 15 years, and the things we want to work on. And then the capital improvement plan, you put that together, then you send it to the council again, okay, we took the CIP, we took the master plan, here are the specific things we want to work on over the next 5, 10, 15 years in this order. And then at that point, that is kind of essentially the marching orders of, we're going to work on implementing this plan that the council's approved. And part of that is this capital improvement plan that you've approved. And that's, again, important of why those documents are important.
So that work we've been doing is the vision and is the direction.
Correct.
And it's the, opening the doors for doing that actual, seeing more action of things happening in the future.
And I understand sometimes it can be frustrating because you have to, we want to do tangible things. But again, that's why these plans are important, is because this is what we as a committee have decided is the kind of a vision for Parks and Recreation in Breezy Point. And then it's the council saying we agree with that. And then moving forward, no one's kind of really surprised of, where did this item come from? It's right here in the master plan.
But things do come up too.
Oh, and things do come up.
Like now we know Billy's is sold and they're going to put a bunch of pickleball courts in there. If our vision was for pickleball courts in our CIP, then that's something else has to go in there, or whatever. You know what I mean? The ability to go to the meetings and present when we need to, and she didn't mean for us to come every month, and she explained that to Megan at the council meeting. So when we have something to present, or if they ask us, then we come and present. And then I think that communication will solve the problem. I think that does solve a big piece of it.
If I may, it seems like we have a liaison right here. It seems like that communication should go, I mean, maybe I'm out of line here, or I don't understand why we have liaison, but we're saying we have a communication issue between the board and us.
I could certainly take the blame on that. Yeah, I'll go back to, the community garden was one topic that the mayor didn't want to hear about. I never brought it back because as the board, you guys discussed to table it to work on the master plan and capital improvement plan. So for me to come back and say, hey, they talked about something really cool, I mean, we could come back and say we talked about something really cool, but we're not really doing anything with it. If that's the direction that you want me to go back to and give the full recap, we can certainly do that.
I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying, just from what I'm hearing here, they're talking to the mayor, and the mayor needs communication. And I'm looking at Mr. Maroney saying, why are you here then? No disrespect.
Well, you
to
can
that.
disrespect that, that's fine.
No, but that's just how I'm seeing this. What do you mean she doesn't know what, you're here at all the meetings, or, when you can, whatever.
Which we appreciate.
Yes, we do.
I mean,
very much so.
seriously.
I'm
Yeah,
not
it's important.
pushing
No,
anything
no,
on anybody.
no.
I appreciate you too, but I'm just saying, we have a line of communication established, but why are we not using it then? And if the president goes to the meeting whenever, that's just an extra communicator, I guess. So, I guess I'm done. I'm sorry. I've said too much already, but.
I can certainly attempt, if that was more of a direction, I can certainly do better job of communicating what the park board is discussing. I'm a firm believer that tape is available. We can always watch for the full thing, because I'll never be able to say, and so-and-so said this, and so-and-so said this, and so-and-so. So that's always going to be a potential lack of communication, because if I don't say exactly what Gail said at one point, but I said exactly what Ms. Williams said, am I going to be blamed of you said that, but you didn't say this? Because it is all up to for human interpretation. That's why the tape, going back and watching a video is always the best. I've always thought just to bring back the high level things of this is what they talked about and this is the conclusion. And that's what it was. Because as a voting committee, a 5-1 vote is just that. It passed. And that's what happens. Mm-hmm. But I'm certainly more open to taking feedback and bringing back more of a recap to the council at council meetings.
Just getting back to topic here, the one advantage I see being a board is that, say we had $10,000 left in a budget, we could say, let's start working that community garden with 10 grand, get it to a point, and we'll see what next year's budget brings. We would have that authority to do that.
I don't feel we would overstep. I think we would be, but we're not always going to be here, so.
As a committee,
Yeah.
they could tell us that we have $10,000 extra, and we could vote on what we want to do with the 10,000, take it to
Right.
Mr. Maroney.
Right.
Mr. Maroney
Right.
could tell the board, and then they could run
Right.
with it then.
And we
So
actually
don't
have some
to
money
be-
in this budget, which we never had any but expense covering before, so we're actually getting into a whole new world here. So this is all good, this is all the discussions we should be having right now about.
And that is something I was going to say too, is partially, we've been very, very focused as we've needed to be on the disc golf. And getting the comprehensive plan in place. So there hasn't been a whole lot more beyond those two things, which have been very time consuming and important.
Right.
I think as we move on, there will be more opportunity for that.
So,
So with that, you still have a motion on the
still have a
table
motion.
from Committee Members Trotter and Williams to keep the committee as is.
Wait, as a committee, not a board.
Correct.
Versus the number,
As an
yes.
advisory committee, not an
Okay.
authoritative board.
it's a tough one.
It's hard. I don't know.
We'll need a second.
Nope.
She said,
Oh, you did
Not
say
even.
that,
yeah.
okay.
And we just did our discussion, so do you want, anyone to add anything more?
No, does anyone else have anything to add? So we'll take a vote.
I will add one thing.
Okay.
If we vote not to do it right now, and then we run into problems, we could always go back to them and try to, and then take it up again. It's not like it's dead forever, right? Is that
That's
right?
true.
Oh, yeah, just because you vote today, no. You could vote next month, yes.
So if we find that we're not able to do or move the way we'd like to move with things, then we could change it. Okay, all right.
Okay. So we'll have a vote. All in favor?
What are we voting on exactly again? Could you repeat that?
Committee.
Stay a committee.
Okay.
Yeah. So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
We can't, I thought we had you there.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think those are the two questions that the council had for you, and we will bring that back to the council at their November meeting.
Okay,
All I have
so,
on that item. Thank you.
and now we go on to the disc golf course.
Okay, so, yep, moving on. The item 7B was added by Committee Member Williams. I will hand it back over to her to go ahead and introduce anything you'd like and go from there.
Well, I would like to invite Travis to speak and tell us his experience with what's a tournament, what's a sanctioned tournament, what's just a bunch of people getting together, what's league play, different things, so that we know what all these things entail and sort of get them defined. And I'd also like to have him give us his opinion of how our course is. Is it favorably recognized by people outside our area? Is it a good course? Have we done a good job? So if you don't mind, Travis.
Sure. I guess since I believe this is all tied into the permit process, right? That's the kind of idea
I
of it.
believe that's going to come back to us at some point.
Okay. All right, so my first recommendation, or at least personally, both as a resident and as a player, listening to the meeting last week, the city council meeting, I think one thing that needs to be illustrated clearly is that this permit process, I believe, should apply to organizations, however you want to word them, that are looking to close our facility for the day or for a period of time from the public, similar to what we do over here with the pavilion. Because I can go over here, which I've done on my lunch breaks, I'll eat my lunch at the pavilion, and you can all show up and eat lunch with me, whether I want you there or not, right? But if I, for example, a couple summers ago, rented it out to have a birthday party for my grandson, no offense to anybody, but if you're not part of the family, you're not welcome, so you gotta pay for that. I think this permit process should reflect that if somebody wants to come and use our facility that our city paid for, my tax dollars, all of our tax dollars have gone to pay for, then you should pay for that right. Because yes, it is a public facility. We can all go out there and use it, whether it's for disc golf, walking, snowshoeing, sledding, whatever you want to do out there. But if you want that closed from our residents and neighboring communities for the day, then there should be a fee associated to that. My understanding, looking at other cities, other parks that, tournaments are held at, $100 seems to be a pretty reasonable number. There are some that are higher. I think 300 is roughly one of the largest that I've found, but their amenities trump ours beyond comparison. Their paved parking dwarfs what we have. Their restroom facilities, their physical buildings, canopies, pavilions, landscaping. I mean, it's outrageous what these places have compared to what we have. So to think that our number should compare to that, I think would be silly and would be kind of embarrassing for our city to present. So I think something like 100 would be a reasonable number to say, if you want to use this facility for the day, this is what it will cost you.
And that's what we passed.
Is that what it was? Okay.
Yeah.
So
It's on the next page.
as far as.
Is that for 36 holes?
It's,
No, that'd be 18.
18.
Either, I would
Per
say from the
course.
city's perspective,
Per
you would look at
course,
it as
per day.
there's two separate
Yeah.
courses. And
Okay.
if somebody wanted to reserve them both, then you pony up $200 and you're
Okay.
welcome to do so.
Mr. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Whether that's, let's say, I don't know, the school in Pequot, you know, they want to bring the teachers out for a team building thing for the day in the summer, and they want to reserve the course, whether it's a tournament director from wherever that wants to run a tournament. Whoever it may be, if you want the course closed to the public so that I can't go out there, so that you can't go out there, so that anybody can't go out there, then you should pay for that. If your question about tournaments versus leagues versus clubs versus people, I can go out there, which I've done with my whole family. My wife, myself, 2 stepdaughters, husbands, 4 grandkids, we go out there and we play. Whether we're all playing, whether some of them are playing, it doesn't matter. We just go out and use it. And there's no reason that I should have to pay for that, because last time I checked, it's a public park. It's public land, it's available for me to use. If I want to get a bunch of friends together and go out and play, I can do that. Again, I run league on Sundays, and that's what we do. Hey, whoever loves disc golf and wants to come out and play, we've got kids, we've got tourists, people from the resort, people that come here from Bemidji, people from St. Cloud, people that are up at their cabin for the weekend, they come out and play, that's fine. It's no different than all of us going out there. Go
Ask you a
ahead.
quick question. You mentioned that facility that is really top of the line. Where is that facility and what's the
I
name of it?
believe the park, I think, was Bryant Lake Park down in the cities.
Is it private or public?
That's public.
Okay.
Yep. I played it, I think it was last fall, and blown away by
That's
what.
an amazing park.
It's absurd. It's amazing doesn't do it. It's crazy. Millions of dollars in landscaping. I mean, you go from basket to tee pad and you're walking on, you know, take your patio with patio paver blocks perfectly laid out. It's ridiculous. Like ours is a cement tee pad. You walk through grass, you get to a basket, you walk through grass or dirt to the next one. Down there, it's absurd. So I can understand why they would charge more, and it's also huge compared to what we have.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
When you reserve a park, reserve a course, how is that designated? How, like, do they close to public, or how do people know that?
Me personally, I'm not involved in the process. I'm not a tournament director. It's happened here, to my understanding. I don't think there's been a permit. I don't think there's been a fee for it. But in the time that the existing 18-hole course has been open, there's been 8 PDGA sanctioned tournaments that have run here. There's usually a Breezy Point Open that's held early in the year, usually May. This year was in June. That event has run from 2019 to 2023, once per year. And then there's normally been what's called a Breezy Point Classic. It's just kind of a smaller, you know, not as well-known tournament that's run in the fall. This year it wasn't held because of, you know, some of the situation with the course, but the 3 years that it was held was from 20, 21, and 22. So there's been 8 tournaments here. I've played in 5 of them, and I'm under the understanding that the course was closed to the public. I saw signs on the side of the road by the police indicating where people should park, etc., and I believe the tournament directors contacted the city. I don't think they had to pay for it.
But there was nothing like for the residents, or, you know, that said that the park is closed for the day?
I
or-
mean, there probably may have been some signage. am too busy worrying about preparing for the tournament to look. You'd have to consult with probably Wade Van Kempen would be a good one to ask that question to. If that, or perhaps city staff here may know.
Okay.
I do know that I saw various signage, you know, indicating things were happening. I just don't know if it was posted that it was officially closed. I think it should be. Yeah, both on the sign here at City Hall and at the parking lots, entrances, going down to the tees, et cetera. That is something that I think should also be included.
The website.
Wouldn't that be the same as if we post on the pavilion that it's reserved
Yeah.
for a certain amount of time? It'd be the
Yeah.
same kind
Plus,
of thing.
there's a level of, you know, if we're being rational here, if I walk over here and I see 50 people standing there and there's a bunch of gifts and cake and stuff, I'll probably be like, all right, maybe I don't know what's going
Yeah.
on, but this probably ain't for me. And when we go there to the disc golf tournament that has gone on, both the Open and the Classic, you know, the tournament director has all their stuff there as far as running the operations. There's, you know, cars parked along the side of the road. There's players everywhere. Like a random person probably isn't just going to show up and be like, here I go. I think this last year, I think there was one person who did, and then they found out what was going on. They're like, all right, you know, I'll come back later. And they did, and we played with them after the round was over. So as far as tournaments go, you're talking, generally speaking, I guess anybody can call anything a tournament. I've heard your comments numerous times about a canceled event on September 16th that they held as an event to get around this process. 100% wrong. Please don't ever say that again.
Well, what would you have me call it? And that's how it was phrased.
It's phrased because it's a tournament.
And UDisc had said tournament,
It
and
did.
there were supposed to be no tournaments and the expansion. I mean,
Correct.
that was what was supposed to happen.
UDisc is a public app that's not owned by a city. It's not a official reservation regulation of any kind. It's literally just a database for disc golf courses. So if I, for example, went to Alaska for vacation this year and I went to Homer, Alaska, I open UDisc, Homer, Alaska. Oh, look, there's 3 disc golf courses. Cool, I can go play. Me, as the gentleman running the disc golf league here, I post our league event on the events tab under that app so that maybe you're interested in seeing what's happening in the area for disc golf. Oh, look, Breezy's got a league on Sunday. Cool, go join it. Usually a PDGA tournament is posted on the PDGA's website. There may be references to it on UDisc, like they make layouts and such, but that's just an app that you can go on and make an event if you want. You don't have to run
So
that.
I should ignore what's on UDisc and just look at your tab, is what you're saying.
You can look at UDisc to get an idea if anything's happening on the course, but just because you see it doesn't mean it's a tournament that means the course is closed. That's the point. There's more detail, there's more nuance. You would have to probably check with the local, in this case, the city. Hey, I see this here. Can I still go out and play? Yeah, you can. You don't see anything that is closed. What happened on September 16th, the Classic was canceled here. The group that ran that was actually Bemidji Disc Golf, the same group that's run every tournament I know that's ever been here. They decided to hold one in Bemidji instead. So they held one up there. A bunch of local players decided, hey, let's all go play. Let's all go play against each other and have a air quote tournament. And we'll do it at Breezy. We'll do 2 rounds. One at their new course or one at the old course in the morning, and then we'll go and we'll have a lunch break, get some food, and then we'll go play around at the new course. And that's what we did. I think we had, I'll call it 16 to 20 people. We started at whatever it was, 9:30 in the morning, and we got done by 3 or 3:30. It's no different than if everybody in this room decides to take a bunch of cornhole boards out here and set up, 4 boards and have a cornhole tournament. 1 team, 2 team, 3 team, 4 team. No different. There's nothing wrong with that. We're not closing the pavilion. If somebody has it closed, we can't be there, then we go do it somewhere else, right? If I want to have a kickball tournament here in the field, I can do that. If I want it closed so that other leagues couldn't be there or other people, granted, if someone's using it, you probably aren't going to go try, but if you want it closed so that other people can't, you pay the permit. If you're
That's why we spent 2 hours trying to come up with the permit last time.
So I think that language should be clear. There's no reason, for example, when I go out there several times, I've seen Minnesota Adult Teen Challenge come out. They come out with a couple vans, 20 people pop out, and they're out. You get an exercise, playing disc golf, banter, camaraderie, whatever
Who
they're
is
doing.
that? Golf Teen Challenge?
Minnesota Adult Teen Challenge.
It's drug.
That's the
It's the drug.
chemical dependency
Yeah.
Program.
rehabilitation group out of Brainerd. I've seen them at Lum Park. In fact, to your point, in the summer, we have a league that runs usually out of Lum Park and Brainerd on Wednesdays. They showed up one week while we were playing league. Course isn't closed, so I was waiting on one hole. They jumped in at the short tee pad and they played in front of me. Public park, go ahead, I'll just wait. If we want to run a tournament and pay a fee to have it to ourselves, then pay the fee. That's the difference. I think, again, the specification should be that to close the course to the public for the day, whether it's one course, the other course, both courses, whatever you want to fund, it's your money, you pay the permit fee. If you just want to come out and play, fine. But if they're playing as well, all right.
And you say that 3 is enough for a year.
Some of the discussions I've had with folks in the community, where there's always been 2. There is a lot of excitement about it. I will say that. That's why I think initially the number 5 came in. But at least me personally, that it basically equates to May, June, July, August, September, 1 a month. As a resident, I think that's a little excessive. As a disc golfer, it's probably still excessive. There's tournaments going on all over the state, so do you really need to have 5 in a community like this? I mean, it does bring in revenue, not gonna lie. I went to Duluth a couple weekends ago, played a 3-day tournament on 7 courses that had 300 and some people. I spent a lot of money while I was there for the weekend, and I was one person of many, and I don't spend as much as other people, so I can only fathom what they were spending. So it does bring in revenue here, not just for paying for the closure for the day, but also people staying for, like now with 2 courses, there's talk of doing like a 2-day tournament where people are staying overnight. That's obviously going to help the resort. If there's any VRBOs, Airbnbs, not just Breezy, but if you're staying in Jenkins, Cross Lake, wherever, food at local restaurants, both in our city and neighboring cities, Reed's, Super Value, and Pequot. I mean, there's a lot of money that can be had by having a 2-day tournament, but do we need 5 of them? Probably not. I think 3 is sufficient. The Open's always been 1 day. You have a round in the morning at 9:30. You have an hour lunch break. You have a second round. Usually a players meeting starts at like 8, where you're getting information, what are we doing, et cetera. And then I live 5 minutes away. I'm always home by 6 o'clock. And I stay and chat a little while with people that I hardly ever see. We do one of those in May, one in September. And if you had a 2-day tournament somewhere or whatever it may be, I think 3 tournaments would be sufficient.
Okay.
Question.
Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Is that document that we started last time just a work in progress, right? Work in progress. You brought it to the council.
So it
Where
was
are we on
brought to
that?
the council, so you
Yeah.
made a recommendation
Yeah.
on all the things. Assistant Administrator Ike implemented all of your recommendations into
Yeah.
a new permit, brought it before the council on October 2nd,
Mm-hmm.
and the council tabled it indefinitely.
Okay. Can we still make updates to it? So if we vote on this to take what we said from 5 events down to 3, that's an update for them to, when they look at it later?
Oh, yeah, you can definitely.
Should we do that now?
That if you want to make a
we agree?
make an
Well,
amendment to
let-
it, that when they.
Let's
bring
get it back from council so they know what changes we want to make on it, I think.
That's what I'm saying. How do we do that so that we,
Well, I think we should let him finish presenting and then just make a list of the
Yeah, that's
things
what I
that
was
we're,
wondering.
the notes that we're taking.
yep,
And then we can put together
anything else? Yep.
one package thing.
I just didn't know where that stood, so I wanted to
Thank you.
clarify. Thank you.
Some more clarification on just kind of tournament in general, because obviously, people talk about numbers. So for example, in the past, our course has 18 holes. For the Open, in some years, they added a temporary 19th hole. And with the tournaments that run here, it's what's called a C tier. It's the smallest level tournament you can have. They do like 5 players per hole, and it's a shotgun start. So everybody gets assigned a hole. I usually start on like hole 12 or 13 somewhere. You all get there, 9:30, everybody goes. And then you're all cycling through the course at one time. You're all there, you're all done. Last card back, hour lunch, rinse and repeat, you do it again. Most of the tournaments kind of close to fill up. With 19 holes, you could do 95 people. With 18 holes, it's 90 people. And that's if you do, 5 per hole, which is the most anybody does. It's usually either 4 or 5. So in the history of the tournaments here, for example, the Open has had 71, 95, 93, 90, 88. The Classic has had 63, 90, and 86. The one this year for the Open got 88 instead of 90 because it was posted late because of all the ups and downs with what could be used. Otherwise, it would have been full as well. So if you do a, shotgun start where everyone plays at one time, you generally have about 90 people. If you do like what's called a flex start where everybody goes like there, everybody just starts on a hole and you play them all, but you don't go 1 to 18. You might start on 10 and finish on 9. A flex start, usually everybody will start on hole 1 and you're assigned a tee time. So a couple weeks ago in Duluth, for example, me and 4 friends or 3 other friends were there. I teed off at 8:45. One of them teed off at 9. One of them teed off at like 10:30,
like
and one
golf.
teed off at 12:30. And we all stayed together, so we'll drive separate, you guys drive separate, and we'll meet up for dinner wherever, sure. When you do that, they usually limit it, usually that I've seen, it's about 4 people per card instead of 5. So on the course at any given time in 18 holes, you're talking 72 people. But those you will, depending on the time of year, depending on the facility, like tee times may start at 8, and then they may, like the last group teeing off of hole 1 might be at like 3:30. And if a round takes 2.5 hours, they're out of there by 6. So you can get more people through. I know that the numbers seems to be getting people like, we could do 250 people out here. That seems like a lot. But if you're using 2 courses and you only got 4 per card, you've only got 144 people at most on the facility at one time. And then when they're done, they leave. A little bit later, a couple more people come in, and throughout the course of the day, it starts with 4 people, gets up to 72, and then wanes its way back down to 4, and then you're done. So 180 people sounds like a lot. If you did both courses, that's just a full course. We could have that on a weekend. We could just get everybody we know to go out there and fill the course up. It's 180 people. As far as the for example, in relation to Tracy's comments as far as language and possible behavior, et cetera, the PDGA is the governing body of disc golf. They have rules that are applied to behavior and conduct at tournaments. So every tournament has a tournament director, somebody who's running the event. They're on site, whether they're playing as well or just there, depends on the size of the tournament. For example, in Duluth, 7 courses, somebody at each course. I mean, this was like a big ski resort, so you're literally climbing a mountain to get to your tee pad. There's a guy out at the tee pad of each course, you know, running the show, plus people back at base camp doing the same thing. A smaller place like this, you'll usually have one person, maybe an assistant or something. It's their responsibility to maintain order. If people are breaking PDGA rules, you could argue even, you know, laws, they're responsible to deal with that. There's disciplinary actions that can be levied on those players. You get eliminated and kicked out of the tournament and, you know, you're sent off the grounds. You can have your ability to play in tournaments suspended for a period of time, like 6 months. I think, I don't know exactly how high it goes, but you can be, you know, you're not allowed to play in any tournament anywhere. So there's incentive for people not to do ridiculous things, you know, and most of the people that are there in a very professional, organized fashion trying to play disc golf in a competitive environment where you're not, you know, it's not a party. You know,
What's the gross amount of money that you guys charge to enter the tournament? $50, $100?
so that's not up to me, that's up to the tournament directors.
So there's thousands of dollars at stake, so it is competitive. So more than likely, I would think at tournaments, you wouldn't have people drinking a whole lot if they're trying to win prize money.
I mean, you wouldn't think so. I played a tournament in Alaska, and it was pretty clear to me that one gentleman did a decent amount of drinking on the lunch break. You know, but he also got kicked out.
Yeah, you know, as a resident, you know, there's been limited use so far, and the issues we've already had, you know, we take a step back and go, holy smokes, 144 people on this 18 holes, what's going to happen then is where we go.
Yeah. But in this environment, of the 20-ish tournaments I've played, I can point out one person that did that, you know, and that was on some random, I mean, I guess to me it was random because I was in the middle of nowhere, Alaska, and played a tournament, and it was one guy, you know, but of all the ones I've played before, I've played here with 90. That one there maxed out at 72. A couple weekends ago was 300. I've played with like 250. I'm playing states this weekend with another 100 and something people, and I know of one encounter. The PDGA rules indicate that you can't do things like drinking, cannabis usage, etc. You know, I mean, excessive vulgarity, you know, yes, somebody, like you say, somebody might do something and say something. You know, I've heard that happen, I'm not gonna lie, you know, somebody says it, but no one's gone on a tirade. You know, I can say, I mean, I played Earth Day in the cities in Clearwater this spring, and with 250 people out there, I heard birds chirping. You know.
How much was that entry fee for your tournament you played in Duluth?
100.
So 100, so that's quite a bit of money exchanging hands.
And if you want to talk money, the money that goes in, I don't know the exact percentages, but I know that a gross majority or all of it, depending on the size of the tournament, goes back to players. There's two different delineations of types of players, and these are very loosely defined. There's pro and there's amateur. Anybody can play in a pro division if you want. Usually that's the better players. I could do it, I'd get destroyed. The cost is the same, but I'm just gonna lose. Amateur divisions and pro divisions are the two differences. Both divisions, they pay an entry fee into the tournament. Pro players, if they place high enough in what's called cashing, just like you watch PDGA, the top X number of people get a payout at the end of the tournament. Pro players get it back in cash. Amateur players get it back in what's kind of known as funny money, basically prize money. So most tournament directors are, in some way tied to a disc golf store, and they will have discs or clothes or, disc golf related stuff on site, and you can use your winnings to get stuff. Like I play amateur divisions, I don't get cash. I pay cash in, I don't get cash back. I've never gotten a single dollar back. I get prize winnings back, and then I get discs, shirts, and stuff. My grandkids get into disc golf, so I get discs and ship them to Alaska and give them to all my grandkids so they can learn how to play.
So then where does all the money go?
It goes in basically to a pool, and it's paid back out depending on your performance. So Duluth, for example, everybody in my division was $100 to enter. I won $200 and some for taking second place, and they pay down however far. So I won a little bit because I did good, but I just get stuff out of it. I don't get cash. People that play in the open, like I don't know how many people they had in the pro division, but first place in the pro division was like $1,200. but I could pay 100 and play in that division and lose by 50 shots, so I'm not going to, but I could. So,
So because it's amateur, they can't give out cash.
correct, amateurs are not allowed to
So
have
the
cash.
cash goes to the business.
Goes to the tournament director, basically to essentially pay for what you're getting.
You could get cash. I've played in
prizes.
golf tournaments where I'm not a pro and I've gotten cash back.
No, you can't. PDGA does not allow it. Again, there's regulations, there's a governing body. I'm under the understanding that if a tournament director was found to be giving amateur players cash, the amateur probably gets banned for some period of time, the tournament director probably loses their license.
So you never go to a tournament that isn't sponsored by the PDGA?
There are people that run them.
Yeah.
For example, a bunch of local of us did a couple weeks ago here. I won it.
Okay.
You can do that. I can do that anywhere. You want to go play a one-on-one pickup basketball? We can do that too. There's no difference. But again, you're not closing the facility. So there's a huge difference here. That's what this permit should deal with. Anybody can go use the course and call it whatever they want. You want to call it a league? You want to call it a
Right.
bachelor party? You want to call it a tournament? Fine. I can have a Mario Kart tournament with my grandkids at home.
I can't believe you have grandkids, by the way.
I have
but
10 grandkids.
Oh,
You look pretty young. Congratulations. Okay.
so it seems like the tournament is going to be probably a very controlled environment, and a lot of the concerns are not going to be happening during that time. Some of these concerns.
100% agree. Any issues that you may or may not see, obviously we all live in the world. I'm not going to pretend that you're going to go outside and everybody's going to act accordingly.
Right.
There's always somebody who's going to do something. If I see somebody doing something that I feel is pretty blatantly offensive, I would say something to them. In relation to Tracy's comment earlier, is that her place to do it? I don't know. If I lived there and didn't like it, I might, but I don't know. I'm not going to make that call. But just random people going out there, just like at the beach. I went to the beach this summer and it was like, should you be drinking out here? Probably not. But is that whatever? I don't know. But there in that environment, no, zero. The most ridiculousness I've ever heard out there happened to be this spring. There's a gentleman who plays league with us on Sunday, third to last hole in our division. He hit an ace on hole 6. First ace he's hit in over 20 years. Rightfully so. He jumped up and down screaming like a kid. Good for him. That was awesome. Otherwise, if I'm sure we're all familiar with golf. We've all seen golf on TV at some point, right? So as we're walking from tee pad to fairway lie or fairway lie to your green, how's the weather? How was LSO? How was this? How was that? How are the kids? Hey, what's going on this weekend? Oh, he's setting up his throw. Okay, he threw. All right, keep walking. Oh, we're up at the green. He's putting. Oh, nice putt. You made it. He putt, hit the basket, rolls away. Oh, that's unfortunate bounce. Sorry about that. Everybody's quiet. It's just like you see on if you watch golf on TV. People aren't out there doing cartwheels, jumping around, causing a ruckus. It's respectful. I don't want people talking when I'm throwing. I don't want people screaming and hooting and hollering, so they don't, and I don't do it, and everybody functions in the same rules. There are different divisions, so sometimes, for example, my grandson played in a tournament this year. He played in the junior division. He's 14 years old. So I'm sure their division's probably a little chattier because they're 14. They're going to talk a little more. They don't care, but they're not being crazy. There's nothing nonsensical going on. Nobody's doing anything out of control.
So when we get back to what is a tournament, how many people would be?
So people is a thing. I don't think the concept of a number is a thing that the permit should look at. Just like over here, if I rent out the pavilion because I want 10 people or 50.
So if you're closing the course.
If you're closing the course, you pay I don't care if you want 5 people or if you want 90. If you're closing the course, you pay.
But we're one tournament. Okay, 5 people rented it for 1 week or 1 night, 1 day. That's
Yeah.
a tournament, as a tournament?
So I did talk about this with a couple city council people. I think the usage of the word tournament should be reserved for the concept of an officially sanctioned PDGA tournament, because that's the idea, generically speaking, of this. I think this permit process also opens up the ability for a group of people, a business, an institution to, have a team building day out
Event,
there.
an
If you
event
want to
permit.
host an event, tournament, gathering group, don't care the language you use. I really don't care what words you use. If you don't want anybody else there, you pay for that right.
See what you mean?
If I want to go out here with 50 people and turns out there's already 60 out here and we don't all fit, well, then we play who can and then you got to wait. All right, hole's open, now the next 4 can go. But if you don't want to wait because you just want to go, then you pay for it. That's the entire purpose of it. Again, I've come over here on
makes
my lunch
sense.
break and I've eaten a sub from Subway and watched my grandkids play in the playground. If you guys didn't want me there because you had a birthday party and you paid for it, then I don't get to be there. Even though an hour later I probably could. That's the idea. It doesn't matter if there's 10 people or 40.
Are you recommending to do the shotgun or the flex start to get it
No,
through?
I don't make a recommendation.
Okay.
That's up to the tournament.
Okay.
That depends on the size of the tournament and what they're looking to do.
But it sounds like you'd be done by 6 o'clock at the latest.
I would say don't hold me to the time because it depends on the time of year, but there's also been discussion of time frames. Obviously, I'm probably one of the only people in the room who plays disc golf. If you sent me out there right now to play, I wouldn't. Because I might get 3 or 4 holes in and then I can't see my discs. And I'm not a fan of throwing something that costs me $15 or $20 and then not seeing it and not knowing where it went. And if any of you go out there, there's a lot of woods. A couple weeks ago, I think 4 of us went out to play at like 5:30, and by the time we got to hole 18, we all threw. One guy's disc hit a tree and ricocheted a little bit, and we spent like 35 minutes looking for his disc because it was kind of dusk by that point. So tournaments aren't looking to run into the dark.
Okay, so we had made a rule on there from 8 to 8. Maybe we should change that to dusk. We kind of went back and forth on that. Now we have more information.
I don't know if
agree
the,
with that.
so depending on when they're trying to start, so normally, the opens here and the opens in the classics, we tee off at 9, but the tournament director and their staff get there earlier. I live close by, so I drove over just to help set up tables and whatnot for them. I was there before 8. Most tournaments I've been to, I've not seen anybody teeing off before 8 o'clock. The only exception, I think, was a tournament held in the cities this summer called the Majestic. They had people teeing off at 7:30. That's private property. They also had hundreds of people, and it was one course. So they went from like 7:30 to I think like 3:30 was the last, but that was also June 3rd.
I'm sure not
where it's
in a
daylight all
neighborhood.
day. Around here, no one's gonna come here and be like, all right, you're teeing off at 6 o'clock and it's September 15th. Like, it's not gonna happen. You could provide loose guidelines that, maybe tournament staff isn't on premise before, say, 7. Because obviously the later that you prevent them from being there to set up, the later the tournament starts. As players, I don't wanna be out there at 7:30 at night. I don't want to be out there right now at 7:30 at night just for my own enjoyment.
Well, we don't want to wake the neighbors up at 7 in the morning,
That too.
So that's why we're thinking, that's why we were thinking 8 o'clock start, and maybe we say dusk.
You could maybe add some language that would say something like play is not to start.
Play.
Organized play is
Right.
not to start prior to a certain
Yeah.
time, but provide a window for things like administrative duties,
Yes.
setup, et cetera.
Yeah. They're not gonna be,
You could do something like that, and then maybe you could do something on the back end, something
Okay.
similar. Play should be concluded by such and such. I don't know if I would say time. Maybe you provide a different time based on the time of year, because
Right.
obviously September is different than
July.
July 1st.
Right, and that's
You
what
know.
I was gonna say, the danger of dusk is, on June 21st, that's 9:45 at night.
Oh yeah, I've been out here
So-
playing past 9:30 in the summer, but
Right,
I wouldn't.
but not
I don't
now.
think we should have a tournament
for a
out there
tournament.
till 9:30 at night.
Exactly.
Even though there's enough daylight, but it's like
and
at
this
the
is
same
only for
time-
tournaments.
Right.
At
This
the
is what
same
we're
time,
talking
well,
about.
tournaments and events. If
And
I
events,
want to
okay.
get whoever's union to go do whatever, well, no, you don't get to be out here before 8 because, yeah, we do have standards around here. So the same rules should apply to whoever's doing it. It's a public space, so, if there's rules and regulations about that, I can come over here at 6 in the morning in the summer, so I can probably do that there. Not many people do, but you could. But if 4 random people want to go out there, then that's fine. But if you want to do something organized where people can't, then, these are the rules. And I think that would be fair. Give administrative time, but then maybe limit play to before and after certain points.
Any other questions?
I do too. This is probably way outside of what you know, but the $500 fine and ban for 1 year for violations put on, that was to go on the tournament organizers?
So
How does
if
that-
you use any other, I don't even know what word to use, organized activity as a frame of reference. So we'll take pro sports. You know, if LeBron James does something silly, you know, that's untoward or against the rules or whatever, they fine him. They punish him. They don't suspend the Lakers for the season because he, you know, got a DUI. He pays the ticket, he pays the fine, he goes to jail. Not that LeBron does this. I should have picked a less, you know, known name, but just as example. So the same thing, if something is happening out here and somebody does something, they break a law, they broke the law. Obviously, not just, I should have said this earlier as well, not just the tournament organizer, but other players as well. There's also, we have an obligation to maintain order. So if I see we're out there and Diana starts cracking cans of beer in the middle of a tournament, I've kind of got a, you know, indirect obligation to report her to the tournament director and kind of step in and be like, this is not what we're doing here, you know. So there's a lot of self-policing in that way, but I don't think it's right. I don't even know if I would go so far as to say fair, but it's not right to fine or levy a fine of any kind against somebody hosting an event for the behavior of, you know, a person who registers for said event. That you don't see that really applied in a lot of other places in the world, and I don't know why you would apply it here. To me, I would argue would be discrimination against a particular activity because you don't see it elsewhere. You know, if I'm at the beach with my family and I'm being a drunkard and I'm, you know, public intoxication, I get a ticket and I get taken to jail. You don't also send my wife to jail and put my grandkids in juvenile for the weekend.
But you're you're in charge and organizing a situation. You should police your own people.
And again, they do.
Which they do.
They do.
Is what you're saying.
You know, but if somebody wants to do something, it's like no more than, I mean, no body of anybody at any time can govern and maintain the behavior of every individual. So it just seems, to me,
Who enforces that too?
it seems
And is it even
unpractical and
legal?
unrealistic.
It's-
Because you wouldn't do that, you don't do that same thing everywhere else. You don't.
Are private disc golf courses, when you play in tournaments, do they serve alcohol?
Private ones,
Yeah. I mean, golf courses serve alcohol when guys play golf.
so private disc golf
Privately owned.
courses, the ones I've seen, there are some that do.
Right.
But that is not allowed to be consumed by players during tournaments. I have seen, for example, a couple weekends ago in Duluth, I was at a Mont du Lac ski resort amongst other places, but their base camp is a full-blown ski resort lodge, food, drinks, apparel, blah, blah. And they're watching all the holes coming down the mountain and et cetera. And so there's people that are sitting there spectating and watching. They're ordering nachos, they're drinking beers. The players, they're not. If you're done and you want to sit there and relax and enjoy yourself, you do what you want to do. But while you're playing, you cannot. If we all go there as a group and I'm going to play and you're all just going to watch and observe, then you're as a spectator, you're allowed to do that, you know, in those facilities. I can't say that I've ever seen anybody attempt to take those things out into the tournament. And me as a player, I would say, no, you're not allowed on my card. I don't care who you're caddying for. You're not going to be on my card drinking, and I'm pretty sure almost everybody else would say the same. So private places, yes, they have those things available. Again, you talk the fee. I'm sure that place got more than $100, but they had 7 courses and they had full restaurant available and they got indoor bathrooms, and you know, it doesn't compare to what we have here. So I'm sure they got more than that, you know, but there's a whole different level of things involved, you know. But yeah, those things do exist on private, but they are not participated in by players. They're not allowed to by the PDGA.
So I'm hearing a lot of talk through what you're saying about etiquette of expected behavior of disc golf. Okay, so I'm a
Yes.
teacher, so I pick up on that. But so my question is, like, how do you see spreading that word of this is how, you know, I'll give you an example. So I teach cross country skiing for kids. I've done it for years, and we use little trails that we make in the woods close to Eagle View. It's not public. When I teach the kids, I talk to them a lot about what's etiquette. If you go to the Arboretum in Brainerd and somebody faster is coming behind you, what is etiquette of how they're going to pass you, okay, on the trail?
Yep.
And so we talk through those situations. So I can say that there's a place for a kid who goes to lessons like that to learn etiquette of how you act, so that hopefully someday when they go out into other places, they use that. So you talk about your grandchildren. I'm assuming that playing with them, that they're learning that from you. I'm assuming that other people who play in tournaments are also spreading that expected.
I would imagine.
Yeah. So then the question would become, I think, in my mind, is how do we spread that etiquette so that that's what's expected when you're in a public place?
I mean, that's a fair question. So there's two sides to that, and I think you have to. So when I think of disc golf as an activity, there's the etiquette of, playing disc golf the right way, just like there is with anything else. And there's also the etiquette of behaving in a public space. So Mr. Toft mentions golf. I mean, I've played golf. I used to have a membership over at Deacons. I played out there with any number of people. Not everybody smashes their club in the ground when they hit the ball in the woods.
Right.
Not everybody buys 10 beers from the beverage cart and clearly is not sober, but some do. Is it everybody's responsibility? Is it that industry's responsibility to make sure every individual is functioning according to a certain guideline? Or is that applied to a certain level of event? There's various, I don't know if you'd call them chamber events that go on at golf courses, and I'm very much aware that they're not exactly the quietest thing you've ever seen on a disc golf course, but they're not intended to be either. Some people don't like it, some people do. It's not, I would love it if everybody who went to a disc golf course acted a certain way, but it's also just a public space.
Right.
I would love it if everybody who stepped out into a public space acted the way I think they should, but they don't. Is that the whole community's responsibility, and does the whole community get, punished, treated a certain way because somebody doesn't? I don't think that's right or fair. Again, to me, if anybody's going to look at this particular activity and say, if one of you is behaving a certain, undesired way, then shame on all of you. Again,
Right.
as just, not even as a disc golfer, hearing your guys' comments about your decisions you made tonight, you all look at it differently. I would say that's discrimination. You shouldn't expect everybody who goes here to behave a certain way just because of A, B, or C. Just like when I go to the beach, I don't think you should be drinking, but it's unreasonable to think that we should all behave the same way.
Unless there's signs up stating how you're supposed to behave.
I mean, sure.
So
but
some of it is education.
some of it's education. Does that fall, like, me helping run league? I try to run league in a fashion where that goes on. I don't want people out there doing certain things. We are in a public space, so, like Tracy says, yeah, sometimes somebody has a speaker going with music. I can't tell you can't. Like, we don't have rules that say you can't.
Right.
So, if I feel that it's really loud, like, okay, maybe you should turn it down. Just like my wife gets on me because sometimes my music's too loud. Okay, step up and say it. But yeah, you'd like to educate everybody, and that's part of the idea of clubs, both ours, other surrounding areas. But I don't think that's, I see what you're saying, but I don't think that's a thing that's a reasonable expectation.
No, I think we're more in line than what
You're just saying in general.
I'm just saying in general is that I think part of it is education.
And there are signs that have it on there, right? Most of the disc golf courses have a list of things.
And
Yeah, I don't know if I would say, I can't say, I use the word most. I've only played 50 different courses, but there's a lot.
I
A good
remember
number of
some
them do have
signs,
signs
yeah.
that will outline certain things, like as far as etiquette of what you're doing on the course.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So we can do that
You
with
can
our
definitely do
sign.
something like that. Now, I would say,
At
keep
the
in mind,
start.
that's more of, as Pirates of the Caribbean say, those are more like guidelines.
Right.
correct.
Just like,
sure,
for
yes.
example,
But we're
down
gonna
at Lum
post 'em.
Park.
Yeah, we'll post them.
At Lum Park in Brainerd, there's a walking trail on it, and it's a park. So people may be walking around. Now, it's primarily, the disc golf area is primarily a disc golf course. So if you want to walk here, that's perfectly fine. But if there's people playing disc golf, the walkers, it's your responsibility to watch out for the disc golfers because this is designed as a disc golf course.
And those are the things we need to put on the sign.
You know,
Yeah.
so yeah, you're
We haven't got
welcome.
to that point yet.
Things are multi-use everywhere. They just put a new bike path in down there. I just played there yesterday and checked it out. Like if
Whoa.
you're biking along, I mean, I'm gonna wait and not throw it, but if there's 100 of you that are gonna come through, maybe
Wow.
the proper etiquette is to wait until the disc golfers are out of the way because that space is theirs first and foremost. And then if no one's there, I mean, just like at the ball field here, it's a baseball field. If there's a ball game going on out here and between innings they go in the dugout, you don't go out in the mound and sit down and have a picnic and then just sit there because yes, it's also public space, but you gotta have some decency that it's a ball field first, they're playing ball, maybe you have your picnic
But we
later.
will revisit those rules. I think we should have, when we get the sign that we're gonna,
Right.
Yeah.
And then we can also have that connected to the QR code for when they, come up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I ask you a question? Right here, we have a $300 refundable damage deposit for the golf event, which would I assume be the one that they paid the $100 for. Do you have any idea, is that too little, too much? Is it non-standard? Is that part of, do they?
That I don't, yeah, I don't know specifically about that. You'd probably have to talk again to Wade Van Kempen. He's a tournament director that does most of it here. That said non-refundable or refundable?
Refundable.
Okay. I can attest to the group that has run tournaments here. I've never seen the course in worse condition after than before. Not once. Other than maybe somebody had a towel that fell out of their bag and they, lost, somebody picks it up and brings it back. But you don't walk into a perfectly clean course and then leave with stuff everywhere. That just doesn't happen. I know their crew and at least most of the tournaments I've gone to, other than maybe private places where they have their own paid staff, they will usually do basically a sweep of the grounds to make sure, they're not leaving stuff behind, so.
You would sort of assume that if there are bits of trash or whatever left around, it's not from the tournament people, it's from probably another time when it was maybe just random people.
Yeah, based on my experience here, I mean, I don't see a lot of garbage on the ground anyways, other than, limbs that fall and trees that fall. I don't, in the, 8 years I've been using it, we have a pretty clean course. Every now and then I'll see a bottle somewhere, or you'll see a wrapper, did it blow in, did the wrappers blow in the wind? I don't know. But there's garbage receptacles and stuff are in them and people usually keep it clean. Sure, somebody probably comes through just like anything else. If you watch everyone who goes by, if you sat here with a radar gun, someone's gonna speed. I'm sure somebody probably goes by and throws a bottle or something somewhere. And then if I see it, I usually pick it up. I throw it in my bag until I get back to the parking lot and I put it in the garbage.
And then generally, how is our course regarded when you're out and amongst other people at other tournaments in different parts of the state? How's Breezy regarded?
People love it here. I know the new course is new. It's only, on record officially been open for a short period of time, but it's been playable. It is a public space, so there's no reason people couldn't use it. We started playing on it the first week we found out the baskets were in. I actually was running league that week and we had 7 people and we found out 17 and 18 baskets were in. And, I confirmed with, somebody with the city that is there a reason we can't use the space? They said no. It's designed as a disc golf course. It's got baskets. It's public space. You're welcome to do it. So we sent 7 of us out there to try it. Everybody loved it. People I've talked to in Duluth and the cities and people from all over the place, they absolutely love. I mean, they like the old one. Everybody says that it's very pretty and very beautiful. The new one, it's a whole different level. They love that they're I feel like I'm just on an adventure through the woods. They like that it's a dedicated disc golf course. That's, to me, a huge distinction. Like most disc golf courses are, here's a public space, like back here, just put some baskets in certain places and it's kind of just thrown together because it works. But the fact that our courses are dedicated disc golf courses that are designed for that primarily, that's huge. Getting to a place that's like that is, it means a lot to a lot of people. People that I've played tournaments with in the cities, they find out I'm from here. They can't, some of this that's gone on, it makes it kind of frustrating because everyone's asking questions. It's like, I just want to play disc golf, but they all pay attention. Like everyone all over the state is aware of our disc golf courses. They have been waiting to come play. People saw that there was a B-tier tournament that was supposed to be here in June, and they were sad when it got canceled, and they kind of knew, that we weren't going to get to play the new course. But the people who've played it, they love it. They get my number, and they're like, when I'm there, I'm going to call you. Let's go out and play, and it's very well, highly regarded, I would say. I mean, as a player, I would say there are better courses. There's courses that have much more land, holes that are, I played today on holes that are, 700 feet long. The best we have is 426 foot, which is still good. I'm not going to complain. It gives me a chance to work on skills that I didn't have before. So there are bigger courses. 2 weeks ago in Duluth, I threw a 500-foot shot off a mountain. Kind of intimidating, So
It's well regarded, and it's a nice recreation amenity.
absolutely. Just on the new course alone, while I've been out there, I've seen people walking their dog. I've seen people just walking. I've seen a lot of people I don't even know. Obviously, I know a lot of the local people that I've been seeing for years, and I spot them. A lot of the group from Brainerd, I know them. There's some various people from Pequot and Breezy and maybe even Pine River that I see, and I've seen them out there, but I've seen a lot of people I don't know. I know a lot of people from the resort come over and play. Even on leagues on Sunday, and just this past Sunday, there were people coming on both courses. I was like, hey, you guys want to play with us? And they're like, oh, no, we got to be somewhere at 12:30, so no, we can't, but thanks, So it gets used a lot, and people really like it.
That's good.
Yeah.
What are the other things that we need to work with to finalize? Sponsorships, we still have that to.
I wanted this to be the permit process. I
Okay.
watched the meeting. That seems to be an item of nobody knows what's going on, So instead of just having you guys try to figure it out, I live here and I play in tournaments statewide, nationwide. So I can give you an idea of what goes on, so you guys are more educated about what it means. It doesn't just mean a bunch of nonsense, As far as I know, there's more items that people have talked about: fundraising, sponsorships, donations. That's a whole separate, that's a whole nother conversation that should not be tied to this.
Right.
We have courses, we've held tournaments in the past. There's this permit, this was part of the opening of the disc golf course, was to get a permitting process established. Keep the permit process. It shouldn't bleed over into other things. Other things need to be discussed. Other items need to be figured out, and they should be in their own time. And they're not related to this. I would love to see this course start to bring in money in the first place. This is a place to start. I would love to see sponsorships and donations, but that's another item that can be handled separately. It doesn't need to, I don't know what all needs to happen to make it happen, but it can be a separate item.
So we can vote on these things that we talked about changing tonight, now that we have more information from someone who knows.
Do we need to vote on it tonight?
Well, I would just say we should forward it to them to update the form to send back to the council for whenever they're going to untable it. That's what David kind of said we should do, so. Then I think we need to set a separate date to finish. We have to have a sign design at the beginning of the course, and that has to be ready to go in the spring with the rules and the
Yeah, and like that
etiquette and
item there,
whatnot.
I think needs to happen, but that's not tied to
No,
this,
separately.
But
So I
yeah,
think
yep.
that needs a whole look at how much time this took just for this too, just for us to understand and get back on this permit again. We
And I
need a
will
whole
say
separate
this.
workshop, I think, to finish up.
If any of you want to, I'm going to Clearwater this Saturday, probably leaving here at 6:30 to 7. I have a 2-round tournament on Saturday, and if I do well enough, I qualify for the final round on Sunday. Any of you are welcome to come along. I'm going with or without you. If you would like to come to see what it's like yourself, I will drive. My grandson can sit in the back seat. He's going to caddy for me. If he chooses not to play, I'm going to ask him if he wants to, but you're welcome to come along and you can see firsthand what it's like. Again, a different city, different course, that's slightly private property, but the function is the same. So you're welcome to come along and see for yourself. I try to provide everything unbiased. I don't want things skewed a certain way. I want you to know. So if you want to come along, I'd be happy to bring you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I have one question.
Yeah.
It's sort of not related, but it is related. So during these tournaments here, you're saying 100 and some people, correct, during a sanctioned tournament? Is that correct, at a time?
The prior tournaments that we've had, the largest registered count that I saw was 95 people. That was a full tournament with 19 holes, 5 per hole. You would either have, normally at say an 18-hole course, you would have 90 people on at one time. If you did, that's if you did a shotgun start.
Okay.
Everybody plays, everybody cycles through, everybody goes home, 2 rounds, whatever. If you did basically a flex start where we all had a scheduled tee time, those tournaments usually run, depending on the size of the course, the difficulty of the holes, there's usually a 10 or 15-minute delay. So if you tee off at 8, she'd be 8:10 or 8:15 or whatever. If you do those tournaments, I've had 3 or 4-person cards, depending on the size of the divisions. 4 is usually the most you see. I guess they could do 5, but there's no reason to because you have more time. So if you did it that way on an 18-hole course, you're talking 72 people per time. If they reserved the classic course, you'd have maybe 90 people out there at one time. If you did the new course, 90 people at a time. If you did them both, you'd have 180 at one time if you did a shotgun start. So say, for example, 180 people are registered, these 90 play that course in the morning, and these 90 play that course. We break for lunch, and then you switch. So everybody plays both courses in one day. If you did a flex start, you would likely have at most 72 per course or 144 at a time.
Okay, so the reason I asked that for the numbers is obviously, well, let's just say 90 people, just for the sake of a number. The parking lots don't hold 90 vehicles, right, that we have. So going along with the etiquette on the course, we should have etiquette off the course for the residents who live in that area. When I'm,
Okay.
90 vehicles parked on the side of the road in front of somebody's house, it's not really, I wouldn't like that.
What is the capacity did they end up with on that golf course, on the new parking lot?
50 or 60.
So the golf course, the parking lot is half an acre. It's not striped, so how many cars can get in that parking lot is how many cars can get in that parking lot.
I can say this, the previous parking lot for the old course, I'm gonna ballpark 12 to 13 cars in there maybe, say 15, and then we've had these tournaments prior using that. And prior, what they've done is had one side of the road sectioned off where people could park. I don't know if not that I count, but I don't know if there were 90 cars there or not. I know a lot of people carpool. People come from, Hibbing. I know there's always a big group from Hibbing, Bemidji. People come from the cities, so these guys aren't driving, all their vehicles. They're carpooling.
No.
If you did I would say if there was a, single course tournament using the new parking lot, it's more than sufficient. It was designed for that reason from my understanding, is they wanted a bigger one to accommodate the traffic. If you did ideally, you do a flex start tournament, and let's say you use both courses and people are still carpooling, like 144 people, but people come in, people go out. I can use myself as an example. I play Day Lagoon tournament in Fergus Falls. Last year, day 1, my grandson and I finished hole 27, get in the car, start driving away, and there's my buddy putting on hole 1. So I've been there for 4.5 hours. I'm leaving. There's people that haven't even teed off yet, and they're not even there. So there's a constant cycle of vehicles and usage of the parking lot and the amenity.
So all I'm trying to tie this together is that we want to be cognizant of the neighborhood.
Yes.
Because we are in the neighborhood in this instant, and we want to try to appease everyone. I know that there's etiquette on the course. I want to make sure that gets carried off the course as well with vehicles,
Yeah, and
You see what I'm saying?
yeah, so if I think it through, I assume you're trying to say you find a way to limit parking to the parking lot only under.
I'm not trying to say limit anything. All I'm just saying is please be respectful of the residents who live in that area because they have small children.
Yeah.
For example, and you have cars coming and going and
Yep.
people coming and going. It seems like we should.
So what you theoretically could do, usually in every tournament I play in, the tournament director will send out communication via email in the days leading up to, and especially the night before with your whole assignments, et cetera. Usually that communication has a variety of items listed, from tea times to, you know, the schedule of proceedings to anything that they need to address. And that could be an item that in your permit process, you could require that they include, you know, so that, you know, you could have a disclaimer of, you know, where it's located, et cetera, et cetera. Please advise players or remind players to be respectful of those things. I know there are other tournaments that are in residential areas. I've been to some myself. I don't drive any more ridiculous, you know, because I'm going to a disc golf tournament, you know, but you could definitely include language of that nature. And then, you know, whether it's Wade's group or whoever, you know, I would see that in an email. In fact, this tournament we had this spring or in June, there were some items of that nature about certain things. You know, make sure that you're adhering to this, there's none of this, there's none of this, you know, et cetera. And then we're all aware of it. Obviously, you know, Diane decides to go do what she wants to do, well then, you know, we deal with her. But you could include that.
I would like something because, you know, I don't want to see some child get run over when they're out there enjoying their bicycle on the weekend.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about weekends here.
Most likely, yeah.
So,
Keep in mind that in the 8 tournaments we've had, I'm not aware that there's ever once been a problem, but it's still, as a resident, I wholeheartedly agree, it's
Only
worth
takes one
addressing.
time.
Yeah, it takes one time. So, yeah, I'm in favor of you including language of that nature that requires it to be passed on. And if you want to have a pre-worded statement, however you want it drafted up and make it mandatory that be included, I don't see a harm in that. You know, I would read it and be like, okay. And me personally, I'd be like, well, you know, duh. But, you know, some people maybe need a nice pat on the back every now and then.
well, you're thinking about golf, you know.
Yeah.
You have all these things on your mind and then
Yeah.
next thing you know, you're running over a little
Yeah.
kid.
You know, they
'Cause
can.
it came out from behind a car. And
We have had, you know, like even, for example, in Duluth, because of the layout of the land, base camp was here. I literally had to take a ski lift up a mountain to get to my first hole and climb back down the other side, question mark. But there were indicators there too, like due to the layout of the facility, like please arrive, you know, ahead of time to give yourself adequate time to get from the parking lot to your designated hole assignment or whatever. You know, it seems obvious, but they include it, you know. So there's no reason you couldn't do that here.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Thank you, Travis. I think it was really good information that we
Yeah.
now can work with.
And then, as always, if somebody has questions or follow-up, you know, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be happy to talk or meet or whatever you want. So the more you guys, the more you know, the more informed you are and the better our processes can be, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So did you want to make some motion on?
So do we just want to go down through this and change, make those changes?
No, I'd say let's wait until we get it back from council, see what changes they want us to make so we don't do this a third time.
But they want us to be able to send them things. That's why they don't want to.
Table the 2 hours worth of work we did last meeting.
But if we've found out new information, I think we need to
Let's
update it.
move on here. I'd like to get home before midnight
We
here.
want Mike to take back to the council is that we have proactively gotten more information and we're ready to make some modifications to what we've previously suggested.
Yeah, it looks like
Can we-
there's
Can we
three
direct Mike to do that?
things
Do we need a motion?
for that.
If you wanted to make a motion to direct me to bring that back as part of the Parks Liaison report.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Do we want to specify what those suggestions are? Or do you want it just to be that we have suggestions? Or modifications was a good word you used.
Yeah.
I mean, we
We're going to have to
just like-
discuss each one, because it's not going to be a simple process.
We just already did. I mean, there's 4 simple things, but
Yeah, well, I'm not in favor of any of them, so,
to
you know,
making
we'll
it
be
3
having
tournaments a
discussions.
year, you're not in favor of that instead of 5? That's one of them. To change the hours to earlier. To add the notation about the parking lots.
I'm in favor of those
Those
items.
are 3 things
Those
out
are
of
the 3
4 that
tournaments
we
I'm
talked
in.
about. And then we can't find people when we don't have a a person who's going to run a fine to an individual. So he's saying that's not realistic, and I was told they talked to the lawyers, and they said that is not enforceable and not possible, so that has to go.
I would add something else if we're going to do, talk about messages to the golfers, to put something in there to recognize that it's surrounded by private property and to please be respectful.
Yep. So that's it. That's pretty much all the changes we made.
So I don't, give us some advice. What, should we just say we have modifications, or should we actually hash them out?
Was there a permit price in there already? I don't know if that was,
There was.
Yeah, we did that.
I didn't know what that was.
$100 per course per day.
I guess, again, I guess it's really up to you. Do you want to just tell the council, have Councilman Maroney go back and say
These are the 4 changes.
that they've discussed it more and you want the council to send it back to you? Or do you just want to there's 2 options. There's 2 ways to approach it. Have Councilman Maroney go back, say they've considered it more. They want you to send it, to untable it and formally send it back to them. Or the other option is just, as Councilmember Arnie's, or Committee Member Arnie's talked about, just send them the recommendations and then they do with it as they please.
You know, if there's other things that we're going to have to deal with in any way for this disc golf thing, let's get all this information together, look at it for the next, how many months we have to look at it, not just the permit. You know, it's winter now, so we have some time.
But that's all we're working on from council is the permit. We're not, I don't think we're making some other.
Well, there's signage, we're talking about signs, we're talking about all this other stuff. And rather than like piecemeal this to
That could be part of your recommendation, is saying, hey, we've considered more. We want you to send the disc golf
Yes,
permit
and
back
that's what
to
I was
us.
just gonna suggest. If
And we
you-
also would like to make recommendations to you regarding the use of the land or whatever rules and all that stuff.
That would be my suggestion, or my thought would be that we ask them to untable it and send it back because we got more information and we would like to make some modifications, which brings it back to our next meeting.
Which I think
And
should be a
then-
separate
We would, then it
workshop
would be a
dealing with
vote,
all
a
of those
discussion
things.
piece and voting. So we have time to think about the suggestions that were given tonight. But we also would have to vote it at that point before we would send it back.
It'd be nice to send them a complete document, not pieces. of
Yes.
documents.
Right.
So if we get it back, we can make the changes.
Jim,
Submit it so they
could
can
you
take-
bend your microphone? I've got hearing aids and I still can't hear you.
Sorry.
I'm
No,
sorry.
it's not you.
I'm sorry.
There you go.
I just said it would be good to give them a completed thing versus giving them a piece of it here and a piece there, then they're responsible to put it together. If we get it back, we can do that, we can accomplish that.
Okay.
Put all the pieces together, one thing.
Okay.
I mean, they're gonna table it anyway,
Right,
so.
right. So we
we'll forget
still need
about it.
Mike to take the message to have them.
Ask them to
ask
untable
us
it.
to- Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Or
we
it could
want
be
to
a
work on
motion.
it.
So just to make sure I get you can put this down in my notes.
Yep.
Just so I'm understanding clearly, not only do you want the event permit to be untabled / sent back to the Parks and Rec Committee, but also to discuss the disc golf in general, any additional guidelines to be enforced, signage, anything that you want to dream up of the disc golf and uses and regulations?
So what other direction would they give us to work on next?
Well, I think
gotta
what
come back.
Councilmember Maroney's getting at, I think at this point,
Oh, yeah.
the best thing would be
But we still got.
tell them
beforehand.
what you want to
still
work
gotta-
on versus relying on them to tell
Oh, okay.
you what to
So
work
yes.
on, is saying, I think what's
Yeah.
getting at
Still
is,
have to work on all
we
this.
want
We're still
we
gonna
want
have
the,
a sign,
from what
we're
I'm
still gonna
hearing
have
is,
regulations.
you want
There's a
the
lot
permit
more that's
back,
gonna happen.
Yep,
but you also want the ability
to
for
work on.
the council to
yes.
bless you working on other things related to this golf course as well, such as the signage and
Correct.
general rules and all of that.
Yes,
Okay.
I can do that.
yeah.
Good.
So was that your motion,
Is that actually
Diane?
the
You
motion
put it
then?
very nicely.
Okay,
Isn't that what I just
Second.
said?
okay.
Do we vote?
I've got it. Okay, so we have the motion from Committee Member Williams,
You
second
said.
by Committee Member McKellar, to have Councilmember Maroney bring it back to the city council at their meeting in November, asking the council to untable
And send
the
it back.
disc golf course permit, send it back to the committee, as well as authorize the committee to work on other items related to the disc golf course.
Yes.
Okay.
Did anybody second?
Yeah,
Yeah, Jim
Jim
did.
did.
Okay.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
Pray God it's the end of it.
Okay, then. That brings us on to our next item, which is 7C, which Committee Member Arnie requested to be put on, so the floor is hers.
I think we're going to need 2 meetings now.
Yeah. So I was suggesting that we have an additional meeting or 2 as needed to stay on top of the CIP because we had to cancel a workshop. And we have a lot more work to do, and I think it should be in a workshop form versus this, in our meeting. So we can have educated guests and more discussion. But to get, pick a date for, and I'm thinking since Thursdays work for this meeting, maybe Thursdays would be good to keep going on.
MEA next week.
So
Yes,
the
next week
26th. And, we understand all people might not make it, so that's always the case. But
So-
if we get at least a few people to keep the work going, I mean, it's a lot of wordsmithing and carving out stuff, and, it's all going to come back for everyone to look at after the workshop anyway, but it's just getting the work
October
done.
What is the
26th
deadline?
possibly?
For us to be
It's not
complete.
Halloween or anything?
There is none.
No, it's Thursday, the 26th.
But if we keep at the pace we
Yes,
were going,
for
we were
sure,
talking
for
about,
sure.
we'll never, ever
We
get
don't
it
wanna
done, and
fall
we'll be into the
behind. What day are you
5-year
thinking
plan.
of,
Huh?
What day are you suggesting?
Well, like he said, is it MEA next weekend?
Yep, it
So
is.
then maybe the weekend after, the 26th, or the Thursday after, I'm sorry.
It's the 26th?
Yeah, that'd be the 26th.
And what time are you thinking?
Same time we meet, 5?
5?
But it's strictly to talk about this.
Well, that was my question along with that, because I think when we tag these workshops on to the end of a regular meeting, which has already gone on and on and on, I mean, I think it's unrealistic to expect that we can start looking at, with
Not
clear
fresh.
mind at,
Yeah.
no,
It seems though, if we just have a meeting specifically for this, we can
Yes.
bust through a lot
Yeah,
of it.
I
Right.
We can
agree.
That's
catch
why I
up in
wanna-
one meeting.
I'm thinking we should keep this up a couple a month,
To catch
If
us
we
up?
do have time after the meeting, great, we'll do it, like make an end time. If we're not done by 7:30 or whatever we leave, we're done. And then we have an extra meeting, and then if you have to go and you can't make it. But I just think it's good to chip away at it and keep it in a separate box so that we can focus.
right.
Can I clarify, are you saying you want to move the workshop that you've had scheduled for after this meeting to a separate day? Or you want have two,
Well-
have your regular meeting, then your workshop,
We'll
and then another workshop?
decide based on what gets loaded into our regular, if we, just whiz through our agenda, then we'll still workshop. But if
Okay.
things get thrown in,
just adding
like
one
last time that
for
got
right
thrown in, the
now.
form that we didn't know we were working on for the whole 2 hours or 3 hours, then we can't workshop after that, so, because we're fried.
So we'll just
So
go
right
with
now we're
the
just
one
adding
like
one.
Dan says.
We're just gonna add one,
One for
and then we'll
right
just see
now.
as it goes. I think that's how we should do
I
it.
agree.
On that discussion, really quickly, I guess the question should be asked, are you having your workshop this evening following
No.
this meeting?
7:30.
So then my recommendation would be, really what you're doing is you're rescheduling tonight's workshop to a different
Two
date.
workshops.
Well, because we did the same thing last time because
Yeah.
our meeting
Yeah,
ran
so
so late.
that's like the thing, so.
This is now 2
You're
workshops
rescheduling,
gone.
so
Why
I
don't we
guess my
just
recommendation, so really
Reschedule
rescheduling
one, and we might get it done.
tonight's.
If I
We'll see how we go.
could I intervene just for 2 seconds?
Please.
So you may not actually have to do 2 workshops.
Right.
The reason
Right.
I say that is because I actually was very specifically designing these workshops on these items with time in mind. If you guys want to meet on just the workshop, we could probably bust through 2 sections of this rather than 1.
Yeah, that'd be
Right.
great. So we'll just see how it
And
goes.
if you're willing to put in that time, we could arrange that. The reason that I said to put it to here today was because we couldn't agree on a time last time. And like I said, we're following a very specific schedule. But
Right.
if you want to do those workshops separately and you guys are saying, hey, we'll devote 3 hours to it, we can probably get through more than just the trails section, to be honest.
That's a little carried away, 3 hours.
Well, we'll start with October 26th at 5. We'll see how much we can get done between 5 and 7, 7:30. Whenever we're fried, we just decide. We work together.
Make a
And then if we
motion.
need it, I make a motion, we do our CIP workshop on October 26th at 5 o'clock.
Rescheduling tonight's
Rescheduling
workshop.
tonight's and the months before's. Whatever. They're both the same
You're
workshop.
already doing that because I rescheduled last
yeah,
month's to
to
now.
this
So
one.
you're just rescheduling the same workshop twice.
Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe Megan can be here
Yeah, I'm checking with her right now.
Yeah.
I'll
We'll
second
just
that.
discuss, okay, yeah.
for little girls.
You gave the motion.
Yep.
right? Okay, I'll second that.
All right.
Any other discussion?
Can we just wait for just a minute and see if,
She's
I'm
texting
checking with Megan to see if she's available that day. That might be helpful. She may not answer right away.
And whatever we do in the workshop, and we do the changes, we're doing the colored changes so that we know what was before and what is after, is that right, Daniel? So then we can send out what we accomplish, whoever isn't, I mean, something could come up, I might not make it for some reason, I got some reasons that could come up. Then we'll see what the changes were, and we can discuss it at the next meeting, and then we all approve of where we get to at a certain, at that point. So even if you miss, you're still going to get a chance to,
Yeah,
See it and
she
change it.
is available
She's
that day, so
okay, great.
that's helpful too.
that's a good start.
We're just voting now, right?
Yep.
We're there.
Yeah.
All in favor of October?
Aye.
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 Okay,
Opposed? Okay.
add it to your calendars.
Any old business?
No, ma'am, not at this time. Not at this time, ma'am.
Okay. Staff reports.
I don't think we have anything. Do you?
I don't have anything off the top of my head, no.
Okay.
No committee member reports? Any? And I think we adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
Second?
I'll second.